should always request for permission before tagging anyone. Post only flattering pictures of other people. Apply the billboard test. Assume that everyone in the world can and will see everything you post. So if it's not billboard worthy, don't post it. Give credit where it's due. Don't post other people's photos or quotes without clear attribution. This means no screen grabs even if you have the best intentions. Instead, use a repost app to properly credit others for your own content. Think of the future you. Your taste will change as will your sense of humor, but your photos will live on forever. Use caution when posting. Don't take screenshots of other people's private moments that they shared with you in confidence. Censor yourself. You might treat your Facebook or Twitter accounts as diaries. Don't share everything with your readers. Some things are meant to be kept private. Minding your mannerisms in public signals civility. Your behavior determines how others perceive you, and if you can leave a good impression, why not?
When it comes to that, it's about really making sure that you don't do something that will make people upset. So let me give you a typical example, public toilet, right? You want to walk into that washroom nice and clean, and at the same time, you want to leave it clean for someone else to use it like that. But what you find is that some people use it haphazardly. They don't care about who's coming in next. And of course, people are disgruntled by the way the place is dirty, not kept well. And of course, we have a problem there, health and hygiene, right? That's a public place. When you think about the airplane, for example, the same thing as well. You are on the plane and you have children, and the children are making a whole lot of noise. You're disturbing the elderly people and other people who are sharing the same space with you. So when you're on the plane, you have to be mindful of other people that are going to be using it. So even when you're sitting down, it's a confined space, right? So you don't want to disturb other people. You want to make sure that you have a smooth ride without upsetting anyone while you're in that public space. What about when you're at the cinema as well? You know, a cinema is a place where, and a library, where you have to keep quiet. You don't want someone to keep telling you, shh, shh. What does that mean? You're not supposed to use your phone when you're in such places, like a library, for instance. Then you're in the supermarket as well. A whole lot of things. And many places where people are, I won't say maybe ignorant of other people, right? They think they're in their home. So you're in a reception in a restaurant, or you're in the reception of a hotel. You're not going to put your feet on the desk or on the table as if, and you're watching the TV as if you're in your sitting room, right? So people wouldn't like that. I've seen cases where some people are in they're in the not waiting room. There's a public place where you can sit down in a hotel, right? And some people have taken off their shoes, put their feet on the table, and their hand behind them, they're watching the news and like, hey, this is not your sitting room. You don't do things like that. Then when you talk about a dining environment, you're in a restaurant. I have literally seen people, and I've done videos on it as well, where they've given you a napkin, it's for your hands. Wipe your hands down because you're about to eat. Then guess what happens? You see them using the same napkin to wipe their face, to wipe their hair. I've seen them do this. I'm like, oh, this is not the bathroom. So it's really about perception and how you want people to see you when you're in a public place.
When in the public, it is important to be courteous and respectful of others. You might not always know the rules, but if you make a genuine effort to be considerate of others with the intent not to disturb them, the conscious effort would show.
For me, I would love to see an environment where when we see something that is not right, we correct. I've done that severally, and I'm brave enough to do that. And most times when I finish speaking to the person says sorry, because maybe at the time they were doing it, they didn't realize how bad it was and the consequences to another person. But most times you find that they are truly sorry because it just didn't come down to that.
The rules of behavior when we're in public vary from culture to culture.
If you've ever been to Singapore and you're in a public train or any public environment, you're not allowed to chew chewing gum. And they made it a law. And so now people are very conscious. Don't chew chewing gum, you get fined, you can be imprisoned. So they've made it part and parcel of their lives.
However, culture is an ever-evolving phenomenon that changes as the needs of the people changes. We all have rights, but it has limitations where the exercise of your rights begins to infringe on the rights of others. Behaviors such as playing music or videos loudly on your phone in public, receiving calls loudly in public places, or even blowing horns arbitrarily can be seen as offensive. Here are some
Good morning, you're welcome to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. My name is Rume Paulson. It's Friday, the 20th of September 2024. And I know you're wondering, where did September run to? I can't believe we're already 20 days in, and before you know it, we'll be wrapping it up. Anyways, on today's breakfast show, we'll be looking at several hot topics, one of which private employers paying below 70,000 naira risk jail, and that is according to the federal government. Another topic we'll be taking much later in the show is impact of cryptocurrency on Nigeria's economy. We'll also be taking global stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies, as well as some top trending stories. But first, I'd like to also let you know that this week is International Week of Happiness at Work. So I know the week is almost over, but make sure that today you're spreading that cheer, you're spreading that happiness with all of your colleagues. So make sure that everybody's okay, we're leaving well, making sure that, you know, we're doing the goal. We're doing everything to achieve that goal when it comes to the workspace and just leaving and being civil with one another. All right, so let's move over to our top trending stories. Well, this first one talks about flooding. It says federal government orders evacuation as Cameroon releases Lagdo Dam. Now, the federal government, through the Nigeria Hydrological Services agencies, has urged residents in flood-prone areas to evacuate immediately due to the release of water from Cameroon's Lagdo Dam. The phase release is aimed at reducing the risk of severe flooding, but areas along the rivers Niger and Benue, including states like Adamawa, Taraba, Benue, and others, remain at high risk. Now, they propose constructing buffer dams and improving flood management infrastructure to prevent future disasters. The 2024 floods have already displaced over 625,000 people, prompting authorities to emphasize individual responsibility in flood prevention efforts. And I think that's something we've always spoken about. The last one that happened in Borno State, a lot of people said that was just due to negligence. We could have planned better. And I like the fact that now the federal government is, you know, piggy-banking off that and making sure they're alerting people. If they need to be moved, they have to be moved. I think about 11 states may be affected by this. So we're looking at Edo, we're looking at Delta, we're looking at Anambra, Rivers, Bayelsa, you know, as well as Taraba, Kogi, and other states. So basically it's just to make sure, but I think saying, you know, people should move is one thing. How are we making sure that people are being evacuated? So the federal government cannot just alert us and say, you know, if you're living in flood prone areas, what am I supposed to do? What if I don't have anywhere else to go? So if they need to create camps, if they need to create, you know, silos or places that people can go and stay for the time being, then they should do that. And there was something that was very funny on social media where they said, we hope the federal government doesn't always give rice. So it's not, oh, because there's a flooding, then they give rice again. What are we doing to ensure that people's lives and properties are safe? And I think it's important to also note that if we need a buffer dam, I know they've said this is going to be for prevention and they're going to try as much as possible to have buffer dams so that when things like this happen, people are not being affected. Because how many times do we need to move? So if we're saying for now Lagdo Dam is being opened, or maybe even due to rainfalls that causes flooding, you have to evacuate people and they move. When they come back again, that same thing could also happen another time. So it's important that we're being proactive, we're looking into the future, we're saying, okay, if a situation like this should arise, how do we plan for it better? How do we make sure that the lives and properties of people are being secured and they don't have to move or they don't have to be evacuated? Because moving or being evacuated is a whole lot. First, maybe whatever gives you money, whatever helps you make ends meet, you might not be able to do that at that time. You're there, maybe in one camp, you're being redundant. You're not just achieving all the things that you've set for yourself. And then you have to still think about food. You have to think about every other thing that you need to do to be able to take care of your family. So it's not the best. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that lives are being secured, and that's why this measure is being put in place right now. And I hope that the federal government is really doing something about evacuating these people and making sure that they are safe. All right, we'll move over to another top trending story. Well, this one says CSOs unite against alleged plan to abolish humanitarian ministry. Over 300 civil society organizations, CSOs, representing 30 million Nigerians, are opposing President Tinubu's alleged plan to scrap the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. The coalition, which includes persons living with disabilities and other concerned groups, argues that scrapping the ministry would worsen the conditions of vulnerable Nigerians and hinder humanitarian efforts. The CSOs have called on President Tinubu to reconsider the decision, emphasizing the ministry's essential role in addressing humanitarian crisis and promoting social welfare. The group remains committed to resisting any attempt to abolish the ministry and is urging all Nigerians to join in advocating for the protection of vulnerable citizens' rights and well-being. So, for this, I think most people are just being divided. I remember when the whole Better Edu saga came up, and even her predecessor as well, a lot of people said, you know what, this ministry should be scrapped because it's been just an avenue for people to siphon money. It's been an avenue for people to embezzle, and most times we really do not even have the data. So how do we know that people are getting the monies that is being put into the humanitarian ministry for them? How do we know that, it's not just a group of people who are taking this money for themselves, who are splurging with taxpayers' money? So a lot of people clamored for a scrapping of this ministry. And now that the president is saying, you know what, we might just have to abolish this, so many others are coming and saying, no, you cannot do this. But how do we find the balance? I think that is the main question here. How do we find the balance? How do we ensure that what the money is being put out for into the humanitarian ministry, it is being used for that sole purpose? And I think this is where, anti-corruption agencies need to come in. I know that we have the EFCC, we have the ICPC, but I don't think they're doing so much when it comes to looking into all of these agencies, because it's not just even the humanitarian, ministry that have little bits of corruption. Most places in Nigeria, in fact, little offices, you're seeing someone who's also trying to be corrupt. So let's not just focus on the humanitarian ministry. But my point is, these agencies, the ICPC, the EFCC, they need to step up the game, and they need to make sure that they're looking into areas where people are being corrupt and stopping it. With the humanitarian ministry, it is important that, you're helping the needy, you're helping the poor. You cannot just say, you know what, we're scrapping it, we're not going to help them anymore. But how do we make sure that we're helping them the right way? This is where data collection comes in. This is where the anti-graft agencies come in. This is where people, meaningful Nigerians, well-meaning Nigerians who have the heart for the people come in. And then, even the people that we put in those agencies, we need to be able to trust them. And this is where transparency and accountability from those people come in. So if we're not going to check them, if there are no checks and balances, of course, there's going to be a loophole. And that loophole will make sure that they can do whatever with the money and nothing is going to happen to them. But if we are always, demanding for accountability and transparency, then they know that they cannot just siphon money. And even if they do, they will face the justice system. I feel like most times there are no consequences to bad behavior, especially when it comes to corruption in Nigeria. Maybe we just talk about it, a few times, a little slap on the wrist, and that's it. We've moved on to the next. But if we're making sure that these people, whatever they do, they have to dance to the music, they have to face the consequences, then it would just deter them from doing that. So I wouldn't say scrapping the humanitarian ministry is what should be done entirely, but we really, really, really need to check it out. We need to check what they are doing. We need to make sure that there is no level of corruption that would even be allowed in that ministry, and so that at least the people who are the poor of the poorest, or the poorest of the poor rather, they just have something to fall back on. They just have a ministry where they can go and they're being helped as well. And that's what the federal government needs to do, because the sole responsibility is the social welfare of the people, and that's what the humanitarian ministry does. So entirely scrapping it, I don't think so, but making sure that there are gaps, the stopgap measures to ensure there is no corruption, then that should be the way to go. All right, our final top trending story says, no more stopping to check. Police reveal NPF ECMR benefits. The Nigerian Police Force, NPF, has launched the Electronic Central Motor Registry, ECMR, to revolutionize vehicle information verification and handling. The ECMR allows vehicle owners to digitally register their vehicles, providing instant alerts if a vehicle is stolen, improving the chances of recovery. One key benefit is the removal of paperwork, as officers can now verify vehicle documents in real time using advanced technology, eliminating the need to stop vehicles to check physical papers. The initiative, led by Inspector General Olukayode Egbetukun, aims to enhance road safety and streamline the policing process with e-policing innovations. Great way to go. Even though we're just getting here, I mean, this is what has been done in so many countries. A lot of countries, you don't have to stop to check and say, give me your papers, give me your license, and all of that. Most times, everything is being done on a platform. And when you open that platform, that website or whatever it is, you can get all of the documents that is needed. So, I mean, I know we're just catching up, but it's a good way to go. It's a good initiative, because why do I have to always show you my papers? But let me go off tangent a little bit. I was having a conversation and I was asking, why do we have so many people on the road? First, we have the police, then we have the traffic police, then we have the road safety, then we have the VIO, and then we have, well, if you're living in Lagos, we have the LASMA as well. So there's so many people that would stop you on the road, asking for almost the same documents. It seems like a duplicity of the same agency, of the same thing, because why should the police be on the road as well as the traffic police, as well as the LASMA, as well as the VIO, as well as many others that you can find? I think the police job, or the job of the police definitely is to ensure your safety. I don't know if they're supposed to be there, checking your papers or checking your vehicle documents all the time. And then what is the role of the traffic police? What is the role of, the road safety and the VIO? So if we need to combine all of this into one and then have everything on a platform where, if it's just the traffic police that we have, they can see all of your documents. They can tell whether you need to renew, whether it has expired, whether it's valid. They can tell everything when they just open it. And, something happened to me the other day. There was a lady she was one of the traffic police people, and she just said, can I have your registration number, which I gave her, and she opened it on the platform. She just had to use a little device and everything came out. So why are we not doing this? Why do we need to always check? And there are also cameras, even though I don't know if all the cameras are working, but you can always flag down, vehicles that have not renewed their papers. You can flag it down, so you don't always have to check. And I think the world is moving into, a digital era. So we definitely need to ride with that wave, not always checking. So kudos to, the police force with what they're doing. We expect more. And then that whole stop and search thing, please, we need to talk about it. But yes, kudos to you. Hopefully, we will start to digitalize almost everything that we do and just make life easier for people, for Nigerians. All right, that's it for our top trending stories. We'll go on a short break. We'll look at the weather. And when we return, we'll be reviewing the papers. Please stay with us.
Welcome to Bayo University, Abuja, Nigeria, with a legacy of excellence and a vision for nurturing future leaders. Bayo University is in a league of its own. We're all about our people, processes, and technology.
Bayo is one of the highly rated universities in Nigeria in terms of product quality standards.
We don't just produce graduates, but groom people into employers of labor.
And it has made us understand that learning is all about three things. We learn, we unlearn, and we relearn.
Bayo University Hospital offers a range of specialized services equipped with the latest technology, manned by a team of trusted professionals. And now, our vision extends beyond our walls with the Baba Ahmed University in Kano following our lead. Join us at Bayo University and invest in your future today.
Bayo University is the institution that you will get the best value for money education in Nigeria.
Bayo University. Learn to live.
Being online has become a part of our every waking moment. From the moment we wake up in the morning till we hit the pillow at night, we are browsing, scrolling through social media, responding to messages. We live our lives online almost as much as we live it in reality. These anonymous interactions, like any other human interaction, comes with complexity and challenges. People get into civil discussions, debates, banter, and share with one another. With these interactions come disagreements, arguments, conflicts that can soon degenerate into trolling, bullying, and general unpleasantness. The discretion we employ in face-to-face interaction is further decreased online. In fact, according to psychologist Robert Sutton, disrespectful, demeaning, and downright mean-spirited behavior is worse than ever. This behavior is especially true of online discourse, which researchers describe as the online disinhibition effect. Stanford psychology professor John Sula in 2004 said, "The online disinhibition effect can cause people to act out in either a benign manner, wherein they overshare their personal information, or in a toxic manner, wherein they become abusive or threatening." "I am in my house, come and beat me" is a common saying online that alludes to the inaccessibility that emboldens even regular people to behave in less than civil ways online. Another factor responsible for this behavior, apart from anonymity and availability, is solipsistic introduction. A situation, according to Dr. Sula, where you don't have any physical cues associated with the person you're communicating with, and other person becomes just a voice in your head. As such, the people in your online conversations merely become characters in your imagination, formed by your own personal history and expectations. You might also hear his or her voice as your own, which makes you feel more comfortable with the other person and further lowers your inhibitions. As we have rules that guide our interactions in real life, unspoken rules need to be developed for our online interactions. Social media etiquette, or social mannerism simply put, means do's and don'ts for social media interactions. These etiquettes are also referred to as netiquettes. The term netiquette refers to all aspects of online communication, including email, instant messaging, social media, multiplayer gaming, and
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. It's time to take global stories that made it to the front pages of our national dailies this morning. And joining us to review the papers is Jide Johnson. He's a public affairs analyst joining us from Kaduna. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Good morning to our viewers all over the world. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. All right, so we'll begin with the Daily Trust this morning, and it's talking about the flooding. So the Daily Trust says Maiduguri flood victims in dilemma after discharge from camps. The writers here says, "Our houses inhabitable, we need support." Another says, "Will assist them to rebuild their homes." That is according to the Borno government. If we move over to the Nature News, the Nature News also has a headline here that says, "Why floods have ravaged Nigeria despite early warnings." Now, with the flood in Borno, a lot of people have said that was just due to negligence. And of course, we did not even plan extensively for it, even though we knew that something like that could happen. So there were warnings, but we did not do so much. But what do you think about the victims' dilemma right now after the discharge from camps? A lot of them are saying their houses are inhabitable. They need support. The Borno state government obviously is promising. The federal government, also the president, visited, and we don't even know what is going to happen right now. But how do you think these people can get back to where they used to be before the flooding? And what can the government do to help them to achieve this?
Well, that's a tough one. It's a tough ask. Because next year the same thing will happen. The flood will happen again, and a lot of families, homes will be left vulnerable to the flood because of inadequacy of government of doing the basics of protecting the citizens and of taking decisions that will ensure that such such occurrence are taken care of. This is not just a natural disaster. This is just force majeure, negligence on the part of those in authority to take care of some basic things which they didn't take care of. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you think that that problem will not happen next year, you are just playing to the gallery, because the issue of flooding, either in the northern part of Nigeria, you are talking about Borno. We knew what happened when the dam was opened in Cameroon, and what happened to the western part of Nigeria. And the same thing happened. So the question is sure that when this thing happens, people are taken care of, and there's a flood control mechanism that ensures that homes are not destroyed and properties are not destroyed, and livelihood are not threatened. But the thing is, we see government responding with the kickstart approach, people donating money, and I'm not too sure at the end of the day this money will go to this victim of this flood. This is just an opportunity for some people to make money out of the misfortune of others. So I don't know. That's why I said it's a tough ask. I don't know what we can do. I don't know where the hope of these people lies with respect to what is really what has really befell them as a result of negligence on the part of agencies of government and government in doing the needful.
Well, I mean, we know that the Lagdo Dam was opened on Tuesday, and about 11 states might even be affected as well. And this goes over to the Niger Delta. So we're looking at Delta, Edo, Bayelsa, Rivers, Kogi, and other states. But with this, because we're talking about negligence, they've said that they want to create buffer dams so that when things like this happen, there is just something that helps. So hopefully next year, we're not singing the same song, we're not telling the same story, and we're going to plan better. Because if we're looking at over 625,000 people being displaced, that's a whole lot. And we think that the government needs to be more proactive to ensure that they are planning for situations like this, and we can just handle it better. All right, let's move over to The Punch. The Punch leads with a Doe poll, so this is more political. It says, military man state boundaries. EFCC goes after vote buyers. The writers here says, security agencies in show of force. Government declares holiday. Materials arrive in 18 local governments. INEC upbeat of success. So, of course, INEC believes that definitely they would be successful with this. But I want to get your take so far on the election that's happening in those states and how you think people have been gearing up to it. We know that the APC and the PDP probably had, I would call it a little showdown. But, of course, the best man needs to win. But how are you confident with our electoral system in Nigeria? Do you think we're getting it right, or we're in a step into the right direction?
Well, unfortunately, I'm not too sure about that, because the last off-cycle election we had was nothing to write home about. And in actual sense, I said I was not going to do election night analysis again. I said it severally, but I had to renege on that, because it's like you calling me to come and join me for that election analysis, and I'm trying to turn you down. Someone that is younger than me and that I respect a lot put pressure on me, so I had to be on set tomorrow night. Now, if you look at what happened in the off-cycle election, that's the election we had in Imo, in Bayelsa, and in Kogi State. Those were travesty of electoral processes. They were travesty. They were nothing to write home about in terms of compliance with the basic principles of election, in terms of free and fair election, in terms of impartiality of the electoral body, in terms of even complying with the guidelines of the electoral body, in terms of even the security agencies doing what they are supposed to do. This is my opinion, I might be wrong, but you look at it, at the end of the day, how many people did the EFCC prosecute for money laundering in 2023 election or the off-cycle election? This is just an opportunity for some people to be mobilized and to get allowances. If you look at the amount of money we invest in elections, that the money that we spend to conduct this election, we'll say that and probably they should just allow those that are in government to continue, and they share the money to the people in the state, and let those in power continue, rather than waste the money. Because at the end of the day, if you have predictable outcome, what's the essence of conducting an election? If you have an election in which those that are meant to ensure that certain guidelines are followed, certain protocol are observed, and they turn a blind eye to it, and then what's the essence of the election? I said it that, look, the what happened on ground will paralyze our analysis. If you go to studio and you stay in studio for hours analyzing the election, but what is happening on the ground, because you expect certain things to be in place, but what is happening on the ground will paralyze your analysis. Your analysis it will make nonsense of whatever analysis you are making concerning the election, and which will be renders your presence, your time, and your energy wasted. So as far as I'm concerned, they usually mobilize the police, they mobilize the military. Must we militarize our election? Election should be fun, fair. It should be something. It should be like a carnival, that I will go and you go, you conduct, you cast your vote, I go back home, and everything is fine. But here, it's not that. That's why you have to mobilize the military, as if it's the money of a coup, and that's why we still have the vestiges of military antecedents in our democratic project. So as far as I'm concerned, look, until there's a comprehensive reform of the electoral process, of the electoral body, I can assure you that at the end of the day, it is not yet to rule, it will be business, to still be business as usual. The police commissioner would either change the commissioner, we change the IG, we change the commissioner of police. Okay, who do the police, the military, and the rest of them, who do they take instructions from?
That's a good question. Who? All right, so let's still talk about political matters. There's a small headline on top that says, Damagum, 4 governors back Wike's support for PDP chair. So we know that there's been a little situation with the PDP camp about 4 governors, Sheyi Makinde of Oyo State, Amadu Finitri of Adamawa State, Caleb Mutfwang of Plateau, and Agukefes of Taraba State are, they're in support of Wike. Then the Enugu State Governor and Zamfara State Governor, that's Peter Mba and Dauda Lawal, are respectively neutral. But looking at this, what's going on with the PDP, I want to get your take on it, on the fact that, first, even the person you're talking about, who's the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, has issues with the governor of his state, that's the current governor, Sim Fubara. And then you're seeing, this whole web being unraveled, and the PDP just seems like it might just be in crisis at the moment. I want to get your take on it.
There has been an inclusion in PDP since 2014. When those 7 governors left, you recall that it was the implosion of PDP that led to the birth of APC, and the death knell is being sounded now by Wike, and then the coffin is being nailed by other governors that are supporting him. You see, we are moving towards a one-party system. That's just the reality, because there's no opposition in Nigeria. When you have someone that is part and parcel of an administration and is still calling the shots in his own party, which is the opposition party, what type of opposition? I can't invite you to come and eat. You can't eat and talk at the same time. Is it possible? While you are eating and you are talking, and Wike is already eating at the table of the APC. So he wants to also be talking at PDP. It's against every look. When he has gone into administration, let's even put it in proper perspective. He has gone into public governance. Should he be much more concerned about partisan politics? No. What I think that what those governors are doing is what the former governor of Abia State, the former governor of Benue State, Enugu State, what they did, and where is Buruburu today? Where's the former governor of Benue State? Where's the Ioki? Sheyi Makinde was the only beneficiary, and Wike himself, which succeeded. Every other governors that joined him, those 5 governors, engaging in Makaba dance all over the world, wearing different types of ashwabi. Where are they today? Politically, they are irrelevant. Politically, they are irrelevant. So go back to the state. So it's just a matter of time, because their power comes from the executive position they occupy. And when your power, when your leadership, when your authority comes from position, the moment you lose that position, you have lost your leadership. So where are these people? Now, what will happen to all the rest? Kefas, Dauda Lawa, who's neutral now, Seyi Makinde, and the rest of them. Once they lose the office of the governor, imagine if we hadn't gotten Minister of Federal Capital, what do you think will have happened to him? It is because, well, he's been empowered with the minister, which some people call the 37th governor in Nigeria, without responsibility. That's why he has some measure of patronage, public governance patronage that people can enjoy. So let them continue whatever dance they want to dance. But the bottom line is just a matter of time. The opposition party will evolve, but for anybody to look at PDP as the opposition party, it's dead. It's dead. It's dead. PDP. Don't forget that it was Wike that brought them. I remember his name now, the former PDP chairman from his state. It was Wike that was instrumental to him becoming the chairman. He removed him. It was Wike that was instrumental to Ayu becoming the chairman. It was instrumental to him leaving. So now Wike is involved in this one. Don't also forget that Wike was also instrumental in bringing the former governor of Borno State, who was in APC, and he later became the chairman of PDP, to become the chairman of PDP before I remember SAS. That's Sheriff Ali Modu Sheriff. Let's go. That is looking at PDP as the opposition party. PDP is dead. The party is dead.
We're having a little technical glitch with your audio, but I hope you can hear me. So how can we revive? How can we revive our... Hello, sir. Can you hear me? I think there's a little issue with your audio, but if you can hear me, I was going to ask, so how can we make sure that we have a better or a stronger opposition party? Because I think oppositions are always the ones who put the checks and balances, you know, making sure that whoever is the ruling party, they're on the hot seats and they have to do what is right for the people. So if you don't have the opposition challenging the ruling party, then whatever the ruling party does, that's what it is. Whatever they give you, garbage in, garbage out, you just have to accept it like that. So how can we ensure that we have a stronger opposition party who's always going to be looking out for the interests of the people?
That's where you have ideological bent. In Nigeria, even life is not interesting without choices. Even with God, you have an option either to choose between God or the devil. There must always be an alternative to everything life. When you have a political system where there is no alternative, then it becomes more challenging. As far as the present political structure is, there's no opposition. Well, our parties are not built on ideology. Our parties are just built on enlightened self-interest. It's just for the sake of getting power and using power for community purposes. It's not in the larger interest of the general public. So people seek election just for them to acquire a position or the other. Who are those that were in Buhari's cabinet? Where are they today? They are nowhere to be found. So our parties are not structured on ideological bent. So as a result of that, it's easier for people to cross carpet, to jump ship. At the end of every electoral cycle, they move to another party. And we said it, if you have looked at the trend, every time there's a transition from one administration to another, the next election cycle, you see governors in the opposition moving into the ruling party. It happened under Obasanjo administration. It happened under Buhari's administration. It's going to happen under Tinubu administration. You recall, under Obasanjo administration, or even under Yar'Adua administration, it happened. So it's going to happen. There's every likelihood that some states, some governors will decamp from PDP to APC. If you study the trend, that's the trend. So if you are looking forward to any opposition in 2027, you are just playing to the gallery, because in Nigeria, the political class, all they want is to ensure that they secure election, they win election, they have access to public offices. They are not interested in any ideological slant or ideological bend. So it can be it's very, very easy for them. They know quite right that, because the election in actual sense is heavily influenced by a lot of factors. Security agencies play critical role in it. The electoral body play critical role in it. And in most cases, if not in all cases, the outcome of our elections are not determined by the ballot boxes. The outcome of our elections are determined by the court. So it's judiciary. So, and then who appoints the judges? Who are the judges responsible to? You said you want the judiciary to be independent of all other organs of government, but he who pays the piper dictates the tune. Whoever appoints into office, whoever is responsible for your elevation, has some measure. If he does not have direct control authority over it, he has moral authority over it. So there is this moral responsibility, there is this moral burden, because the appointing body is the executive, and the executive is controlled by the ruling party. So it's very clear that a lot of things in our national life is nationalized, is centralized. It is not a federal system. What we have is a unitary system where you have a central command structure. And that central command structure, by the structure of the government that we have, comes from the presidency. So whoever is occupying the office of the presidency in Nigeria wields tremendous power, So if there is no reform, concerning that, whoever is that occupier, the occupier today is Tinubu. The occupier yesterday was Buhari. Now, Buhari has left that office. What power, what influence does he have? Obasanjo has left that office. Jonathan has left that office. So, but when they were in office, you could see the tremendous power which they have, which they can look. EFCC, DSS, the army, all of these agencies are certain executive body controlled by the chief executive officer of the nation, who happens to be the commander-in-chief of the armed forces and the president of the Federal Republic. So it's only in Nigeria that you see when the president is introduced as the president and the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Have you ever seen the president of America or the prime minister of Great Britain introduced in that manner or in that direction? It tells you the influence and the authority of that particular office. So as long as you have that office, what measure? Except there's a restructured system in which power is devolved from the office of the presidency back to other constituent units that makes up the nation. But it is what it is. It is the structure. And don't forget, the constitution we are still operating is a product of the 1995 Constituent Assembly, which was instituted by Abacha to ensure that it's perpetuated in office forever. And then that constitution was what was reviewed by the 14 wise men led by Justice Nikitobi in 1999, which forms the core of the 1999 Constitution, whether amended or as amended or not amended, which wielded tremendous power in Abacha. Don't forget, in the office of the presidency, because it was then thought that Abacha would transmute from being a military head of state to an elected president. So until we reform that structure, which is the foundation of our democratic experience, you'll be having the problem we have. For 25 years, we have had a democratic work. Have we got into democratic bus stop? No. What we have got into is that we have transited from military rule to civilian administration. Right. And we have not really seen the full trappings of democratic governance.
Well, I hope so very soon we start to see the dividends of democracy, because we cannot say that we're a nation practicing democracy and we're not doing anything when it comes to that. It's just a civilian role. Anyways, so there is another headline here that says Dangote officials, refiners tackle marketers over imported PMS. Now, one of the things they're saying is, first, it increases our demand for the dollar. So, of course, you know, our naira is going to be weaker, but that's not even the main issue. Another issue that they have is that this PMS that is being imported is of low quality. So when they put it side by side with the PMS refined by Dangote, that is of low quality. But I want to get your take on this, because, of course, Dangote came with his own price. A lot of people are like, we expect yours to be, you know, way more affordable. Let me not say way cheaper, but way more affordable. And now it isn't. And all of these marketers are saying, you know what, we might as well. In fact, there are some vessels that are to land Nigeria right now with this PMS. But what is your take on this? The fact that there is a high likely chance that it would weaken our naira and these products are of low quality, but yet they're still being imported.
Well, don't forget that Dangote is not a philanthropist. He's a capitalist. He's a businessman. He's in the business. But it's unfortunate that Nigerian placed too much expectation on that refinery. And the government played a lot of role in terms of the support that was provided, even though the resources was he financed the project, but somehow there was some leverage that were enjoying, concessions that were given. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't expect anything different. Don't forget, when this administration came on board, there was one of the issues they tackled is the issue of the price of cement. What cement was sold in Nigeria and what cement was sold in neighboring Republic of Benin. And you know, the back and forth between Dangote, Bois, the federal government, we are going to bring down the price and the rest of it. What happened to it at the end of the day? So when people talk Dangote as if he's a philanthropist, as if he's running the public enterprise, a businessman, what government needs to do is to open up the market. Let him sell whatever he wants to sell. Let those that want to import. One of the reasons why they said that the price goes up in Nigeria is that we can't meet up with the demands, or that the demands that we of the fuel we consume in Nigeria, that importation cannot meet up with it. And then there's this thing which I believe is unethical, which it is not for Dangote to decide whether the fuel that is being imported is of lower quality or lower grade to his own. I think the agencies of government that should have done that is an unethical practice on his behalf. There should be a body that says, okay, this fuel, we have analyzed this fuel, As far as we are concerned, this Dangote fuel is better. What Dangote did with his own fuel is what Diagamal has been doing to other reptiles, nodding his head and acknowledging and praising himself. So it's just self-adulation. It might be good, but let's have a third person credibility concerning that. So all those that place their hope, let Dangote refine. All those that place their hope on, okay, the refinery in Port Harcourt and the refinery this will work to do that. You have seen the machinations of how NNPC had played a critical role in what we pay for petroleum products in Nigeria over the years. Well, it became clearer to us that indeed, if anyone says there is no cabal, it became clearer with this Dangote refinery and the release of the product into the Nigerian market. That NNPC will release statement. They released the statement in the tick of the night, and then they released two statements. Have you ever seen NNPC release any statement concerning explaining how the pricing of petroleum product has gone before the arrival of Dangote's refinery into the scene? None. So it tells you that there is more to it that you and I don't know. Only God will help us. We are the masses of these elements that have considered themselves to be cabal, exploiting Nigerians at their own expense. Like my friend said, the rich man that is not contented is poor. The poor man that is contented is rich.
That is some deep words, quite profound. All right, finally, let's look at the headline on the Business NG. It says Nigeria's interest rate decision looms. CBN may follow U.S. Fed's lead, and that is said by an analyst. Now, we know that the U.S. has cut, their own interest rate by about 50 basis points. But what do you think is going to happen, especially with the fact that our Naira is even weaker? We're looking at 1,660 at the moment. And I know that by next week, they're going to have a conversation on this. But what do you think about this? The fact that, our own Naira, our own currency is getting weaker. And then when other factors, like other places, like the US, the UK, when their own currency or their own, their own interest rate is being cut, we're also being affected by this. How can we get independent with our own currency and make sure that it's stronger right now?
Except you don't want to trade international trade. As long as you are trading internationally, you engage international, your currency will be subjected to the market structure, to the open market structure, and it will compete with other currency in the marketplace. And the international trading currencies are the dollar, the pounds, the euros. Those are three major international currency with which we use as benchmark to measure the exchange rate. As far as the monetary policy of Nigeria is concerned, once you have fiscal responsibility to affect your monetary policy, it's just the two. You can't separate the two. How fiscally responsible are we? And when you borrow money, when you don't have a productive economy, and when you run your budget on deficit, when you and I cannot spend money we don't have, we can't spend it. You can't go to the bank and collect loan upon loan, and the bank keeps giving you loan, and you improvise your unborn children to the seventh generation. And that's what government is doing. What you and I cannot do with our finances is what government is doing with public finances. Government will keep borrowing, and in this borrowing, they will leave it. Borrowing to fund is basic. If there's no fiscal responsibility, there's no way there will be monetary discipline. Now, what you do in terms of your income and your expenditure, in terms.
Hello, sir. I think we're having a little bit of network issues and it's affecting your audio. But yeah, thank you so much. This is where we have to wrap it up on this segment. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at our next hot topic. Please stay with us.
An African girl somewhere is sitting at home, accompanied by dreams that seem so far away. Africa is one of the continents with the highest out-of-school percentage in education, and girls are at an early disadvantage. The sub-Saharan Africa records about 18 million out-of-school girls. This gender gap extends to the tech space with a projection of only a 33% global female workforce representation in tech firms for 2022. Let us help change the stories and numbers. Africa Agility's Project Train a Girl campaign is working to help train African girls in tech. You can donate as little as $2 or 2,000 Naira to help a girl in tech get her heels in the door. Visit www.africaagility.rallyup.com/PTAG to donate.
Etiquette or social mannerism, simply put, means do's and don'ts for social media interactions. These etiquettes are also referred to as netiquettes. The term netiquette refers to all aspects of online communication, including email, instant messaging, social media, multiplayer gaming, and other forms of online communication. The main goal behind netiquette or mannerisms on social media is to treat others with respect and take care of intellectual property rights and associated implications. Personal information, images, or videos of anyone should not be shared without consent or mentioning credits where due. Except we seek to change such behaviors, it will pervade. Here are some social media netiquettes. When sending a DM, be polite and go straight to the point. When responding to posts, even if you disagree, be careful not to use condescending and insultive words. Take a 5-minute pause before you post any comments. Don't comment on topics that people tend to be passionate about. Don't respond to insults or hateful language. Don't say to people online what you won't have the audacity to say to them in person. Avoid excessive tagging of people. Ask before tagging people. Although it may seem inoffensive, tagging a friend or acquaintance on social media without their permission could in many ways cause problems for that person. Good social media etiquette means you should always request for permission before tagging anyone. Post only flattering pictures of other people. Apply the billboard test. Assume that everyone in the world can and will see everything you post. So if it's not billboard worthy, don't post it. Give credit where it's due. Don't post other people's photos or quotes without clear attribution. This means no screen grabs even if you have the best intentions. Instead, use a repost app to properly credit others for your own content. Think of the future you. Your taste will change, as will your sense of humor, but your photos will live on forever. Use caution when posting. Don't take screenshots of other people's private moments that they shared with you in confidence. Censor yourself. You might treat your Facebook or Twitter accounts as diaries. Don't share everything with your readers. Some things are meant to be kept private.
I will take you through this amazing lesson today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Private employers paying below 70,000 naira risk jail. The federal government, has said that has mandated private sector employers to pay a minimum wage of 70,000 naira, warning that failure to comply is punishable by law. Agencies recruiting for the private sector must ensure that no worker earns less than 70,000 naira, even after deductions, to address current economic realities. The Employers Association for Private Employment Agencies of Nigeria expressed its commitment to the new minimum wage, but requested clarification on whether the amount is gross or net. The Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) emphasized the need for private employers to strictly adhere to the minimum wage, stressing that 70,000 naira is still insufficient given the current economic hardship. Joining us to discuss this is Barrister Justice Uwegbu. He's a human rights lawyer. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, once more.
All right. So we're talking about minimum wage, compliance to this, making sure that everybody gets at least 70,000 naira, regardless of whether you're in the public sector or whether you are in the private sector. Now, I want to understand the rationale behind this, because a lot of people are saying there is no clarification whether it's gross, whether it's net. How do we ensure? And for people who are not even making as much, how do we pay the people that we need to pay? So I want to get your take. What is the rationale behind this, ensuring that the private sector needs to also pay this amount?
Well, the truth here is most time it's not about making rules or laws. The issue is the practicability of these rules or laws and the reality on ground. If you look at what is happening in the country today, you will discover that even some companies or some private sectors are even fighting to meet up with production one way or the other. Last time, you remember the era of economic meltdown, where many workers were retrenched, especially in the private sector, which also went across to the public sector. So it's not just making rules and laws, but the rules and laws you're making, is it sustainable? And you look at it holistically, it is not sustainable because one, what are the policies that the government has set in place before now to make sure that all things are equal? You cannot mandate somebody who has been striving to survive his business or to manage his business, and you're not giving him a template of what to do. It cannot work, especially when we know in this country that the government are not even helping matters in the first place. There's no loan facilities by the public sector. There's no enabling environment and all the rest. The taxation or the taxes from the government is huge and all the rest. And secondly, you look at it also, even the public sectors you're talking about, many governors today have not even agreed to pay the 70,000 naira minimum wage. I think we are playing in this country. I think what they are trying to do is to ambush the public to believe that the public is their problem. As far as I'm concerned, it may not work because the government has to, first of all, show a level of responsibility before you now push it to the people.
All right, so how would the government, ensure that this is being adhered to? So, of course, they're saying you might risk jail if you do not pay 70,000 naira to all of your staff. But how are they sure that this would be people are going to comply to this?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. The ones that will happen, you see private sector closing up. Because if a private sector cannot be able to pay, and they know that maybe because of the law or the rule, they may risk jail time, they will close up. And that means that there will be more unemployment in the
Exactly, because I was about to ask that, isn't this going to threaten job security at the moment and making just a lot of people will be unemployed, a lot of people will be out of jobs, and of course that could now lead to crime, it could lead to a lot of other things. So how can we even help this right now?
That's what I'm trying to say. What has the government itself put in place? How many industries did the government itself have to sustain some of these things? Well, okay, for example, let me take Lagos for example. Come to Lagos today. Many companies functioning in Lagos today operate with what we call casual workers.
Yeah.
You guys take it yourself. And if you look at these casual workers, you see that what they are earning is just from hand to mouth. And they're even better off with it. Because the Nigerians only want food on their table. The government is not providing jobs. The government is not providing an enabling environment for even the private sector. And you're not coming up with this kind of law. I think you're joking in this country, as far as I'm concerned. So it's not going to work. Let's be realistic to ourselves. What I discover is this: the government is trying to, set people against themselves. So at the end of the day, to be as if the people are fighting the people. You know, trying to remove, attention to them. But that is exactly what I'm seeing here. So for me, it's not going to work.
You know,
because somebody who set up a social industry with a small money, he does not have access to loans, he does not have access to facility from government, and he is managing to pay workers, and those workers are happy. You return them at least they are seeing food at the end of the day. And you're not mandating that person, look at what you're going to do. And he said he cannot do, okay, let me close up.
You know, speaking about...
How many governors have agreed to pay the 70,000 in the first place? This is not our problem as far as I'm concerned. This is not what the government should be looking at now.
Speaking about closing up, a lot of businesses have left Nigeria. In fact, PZ Cousins, it was in the papers this morning, they were saying that PZ Cousins is going to sell all of their subsidiaries. And we've seen so many businesses that have closed up, so many eateries. A lot of people are not being able to do business at the moment because, of course, it's not a thriving environment. And when you have other laws like this, it just affects it. But I wanted to ask, do you think the government has done, you know, any analysis to understand the impact that it might have on small and medium scale enterprises? And for people who are not maybe, who are not working full time, maybe you just work a few days in a week, do they also have to get paid 70,000 naira as well?
That one, you see, when you look at it very well and holistically, you will agree with me that as far as I'm concerned, for now, this is not our problem. Because one, the government is not doing anything to make sure that people sustain their daily bread in a day, not to talk of in a month. Now, look at it now. How much is a bag of rice? A bag of rice is even more than 70,000 naira.
Right.
And for a family of 3 or 4, a bag of rice will not be enough for you for at least only 2 months. Now, you are not talking about other things. The government is not talking about how to subsidize food commodities, food items in the market, because our agricultural system is not working. Nothing is working in the society. Nothing is working in the country. So they are busy doing things that are not necessary. Okay, look at this kind of rule now, or law. Let me call it rule at the meantime that you're bringing up. As far as I'm concerned, it's neither here nor there. Let me also tell you one thing. One of the major problems we're having today in the country is the pump price of fuel, because that affects everything you do in the country. I assure you, if the pump price of fuel can come down to 100 naira per liter, all these things will change overnight. It will change overnight. The problem is that, not like you said, the government don't do a statistic analysis before coming up with issues like this. Maybe somebody will the minister will just wake up one day and bring up one policy and throw to the public, and it become an issue of discussion just for me, just to create diversion, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, so do you think that there might be exemption? Because I'm wondering how the government needs to support the people, especially the people who have like the small and medium scale enterprises. Will there be an exemption for them? Maybe at this point, they just have to hire people as freelancers or pay as you go. When you come, you do this and I'm just paying you for that. Do you think that my jail term is a big deal? So how can people in jail term is a
time workers? So it's better, they're not full-time workers. And as far as concerned, it is thrown open. If you want to work, you work. If you don't want to work, you go. And when you look at economy, look at everything, and you don't have a choice, you want to take it off. That's the truth.
Oh boy. So, but how can the government support people better? What do you think they need to do to support these businesses?
Well, the truth is that, just like I said before, the government needs to put up an economic team. If you remember, during the time of Jonathan had an economic team then that sat and did a holistic approach and analysis of what and what that will happen. And the highest we bought rice, bag of rice was 8,500. What has happened? And all the food commodities, if they want to get it right, the best thing they do is let them set up an economic team to look at this thing holistically so that all the states will follow suit. You don't just wake up one day and make a law and they expect people to follow and it will work. It won't work. You need to look at the interactive effect of that rule or that law you are making. Secondly, what have you put in place? Nothing.
So looking ahead now, how can we have a better wage system in Nigeria? Because like you rightly said, a bag of rice is more than 70,000 naira. And for a family, that's not even enough. That's not enough to sustain them. But we know that we have to start from somewhere. And I think maybe this is just a step in the right direction, whereby people need to earn, just what is sufficient for them to feed, for them to just take care of their families. Fuel subsidy being gone is a major factor to what has led us here right now. But still, our wage system hasn't been the best. Other countries, if you look at the UK, if you look at the US, most people are earning per hour. But here, our labor is kind of funny. You work all day. It doesn't matter about the hours and then the days, and then this is just what you get. But how do you think we can have a better wage system in Nigeria that also shows the efforts of the employer, or rather of the employee, and what they're putting to make that money?
First of all, if you have a good government that believes in good governance and believes in delivering dividends of democracy to the people. And for me, it takes nothing to deliver dividends of democracy to the people. Secondly, who are the people you summon or you bring together as your economic team? Who are your advisors? What and what do they do? Are they connected to the people, or you go and bring people from here and there and make them one thing or the other, ministers and all the rest, just to settle political loyalism? And that is what is the problem of this country. And people in the government, both at the National Assembly, they are living big bourgeois life and all the rest, are not motorable. Why we don't have infrastructure? No companies. Today, let me ask you a question. How many companies or industries today are owned by the government and is being managed by the government? None. Only NLPC. Even the NLPC now is even being run like a private company.
Yeah.
So what are we saying? Why should we keep on deceiving ourselves in this country? Let me give you an example from Imo State. During the time of late Mbakwe, of blessed memory, the former governor of Imo State then, Mbakwe built industries, I won't say companies, industries that employed people. And remember, after that time, this man ruled or governed 3 states. Now, Abia and Ebonyi, they were all in Imo State then. As I speak to you, I can mention some of these industries. As I speak to you today, those industries are no longer functioning. So what are we saying? But during this time, these industries are functioning. As you're leaving school, you're getting jobs. And it's not only in Imo State, it goes across all the states. We no longer have, the government no longer have any industry functional in this country again. The ones they are privatizing. So what are we saying? And you now want to regulate the amount of private sector. Somebody took his hard-earned money to come and open up a small-scale industry just to help people. And you now want to say, look at what we're going to do. What have you done for that person? He does not have access to loan. The monetary fund or whatever that people can It's neither here nor there. They are not doing anything. We have AGP, Agricultural Development Program, or all the rest. They are not working, but people are earning salary. Many of these what do you call it? These agencies are not working. Nothing is happening, but people are earning salary. As I speak to you, an NPC, I know how much they are spending every month in worker salary, but they are not producing anything. Who is fooling who? Can't we tell ourselves the truth in this country?
There are people who are even ghost workers. They never show up, and they earn.
I don't want to go to workers. I don't want to go to leave those workers alone. We're talking about the workers the government are even supposed to have been paying without production. I don't want to go there.
No productivity, yeah. I understand what you're saying. So I was going to ask, we're talking about jail term here, but shouldn't there also be something else that could happen? So can they get a fine, or does it just go straight to jail term? If you do not pay 70,000 naira, we're going to send you to jail. And is there a recourse for employees who go ahead and tell, and in fact, how do I even let the government know that my employer is not paying me this amount? What do I do? What are the steps? And then when that happens, what's the recourse for me to still have my own job security? Because I feel like a lot of people will be scared to report if they're getting less than that, because at the end of the day, you don't want to lose the thing that puts food on your table. So how would that work? And then if an employer is being indicted and they find out that they do not pay that amount, is there a fine, or is it just jail term that they go into?
The truth is that, this issue of jail time, they know that is the only thing that you say, and Nigerians will sort of get to or get to something like that. I think that is why they are using that. But like I said before, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Let's be realistic. I believe in sincerity of purpose as far as I'm concerned. Now, you're putting jail time for such. You have not also put jail time for people who are working in the public sector, directors, farm sex, and all the rest, who are not doing what they are supposed to do. You have not put jail time for senators, for House of Senate members, for ministers, and all.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I think if we're going to say jail term, it should go everywhere. It cannot just be, because you did not pay 70,000 naira. But how about the people who are corrupt in our nation, and there's no jail term for them, and they're not really facing the justice system? So it's important that, of course, if we're going to say that, it's everywhere. If you do not do what is right, then you will face the music. Anyways, so with this, I want to believe that the government definitely needs to put something in place for the people. You cannot just bring a policy and there are no measures to back up that policy. So what have you done? Have you done your analysis? Have you discovered how the impact on SMEs might just be? Have you tried as much as possible to say, okay, this is what we can do to cushion the effect? Because a lot of businesses are struggling, and when you talk about making sure that they're paying these amounts, some of them might not just be able to. And we don't want a situation whereby there are job losses, there's unemployment, people are redundant, and then they get into crime. And that is not what we want in Nigeria. We want job security for every single person. We want a better economy for each and every one, and that we can say, yes, our economy is flourishing and everybody is just doing their best. Anyways, we've been speaking with Justice who is a human rights lawyer, and we're just discussing the fact that Nigerians or businesses, privately owned businesses, may risk a jail term if they do not pay 70,000 naira to the least paid worker in their organization. This is where we have to wrap it up on this segment. We'll come back again soon, and we'll be discussing the impact on cryptocurrency in Nigeria. Please stay with us.
Fundamentally, hustle culture is about work dominating your time in such an unnatural way that we have no time to live our lives. The demanding nature of our world now, where people have to pay multiple bills, take care of family, has led to the need to make more money to meet those needs. Coupled with the constantly increasing cost of living and inflation, people can't stop working. The weekends are no longer spent relaxing and spending time with family, but catching up on work that couldn't be completed during the week or doing other side hustles that can provide that extra money to cover some bills. Now, people log in long hours and take on side hustles for many reasons. Eloho, a 28-year-old woman, has to take on multiple jobs of being an editor by day, an English language tutor by night, and an invigilator on the weekends.
The cost of living has really increased. Like, the inflation is at an all-time high, and salaries are they're not increasing that much. Even if they are, a friend of mine calculated it for me and said, even if you're earning like 100% more, now your expenses are not like 100% more. For example, I moved houses twice in the last 3 years, and now I'm paying, the rent I'm paying right now is like 200% of what I started with on this same salary. So I say my salary is for 3 different things. So like the day job is for living expenses. Electricity tariff has increased twice. There's water bill, there's light bill, there's so many things to consider. Then my 9th job is for skincare. Your skin starts caring when you take care of it. So, and skincare is now more expensive, just keeps getting more expensive. So like things that make me happy, that's for one of my.
Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Now let's discuss the impact of cryptocurrency on Nigeria's economy. The impact of cryptocurrency on Nigeria's economy is multifaceted, particularly in promoting financial inclusion. Digital currencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum provide easier access to financial services for the unbanked, while also simplifying international remittances with lower fees and faster transaction times, which play a crucial role in Nigeria's economy. The rise of cryptocurrency in Nigeria is driving employment opportunities in the tech sector, but faces regulatory challenges due to the government concerns over fraud and money laundering. Economic diversification is enhanced as cryptocurrency adoption fosters digital innovation, despite the volatility risk affecting investors and financial stability. Now, joining us to discuss this is Frank Eleanya, is a senior financial analyst at Tech Cabal. Good morning, Frank. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So we're talking about cryptocurrency. I want to first get your assessment. What is your assessment on cryptocurrency in Nigeria and how people have embraced it so far? I know it's been here for the last couple of years, but I want to get your take. How have people embraced it so far, and what is your own assessment to cryptocurrency in Nigeria?
Cryptocurrency in Nigeria has certainly gained a lot of attention, especially from the consumer perspective. A lot of people have adopted it and are using it for different purposes, majorly for trading. When I say trading, I don't mean buying and selling. Well, that's the way you look at it and say, okay, it's also buying and selling, but buying a crypto and then leaving it on your exchange and waiting for the time that it appreciates, and then you sell it off. That's a form of trading that people are, or like they are hedging on it, you know. So there's hedging going on. There's also some people who are also using it. A few people who are using it as a means of exchange. You know, it's not yet legal tender in Nigeria. Because of the position of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is in charge of the monetary policies in the country. The Central Bank still has not lifted a ban on banks dealing with crypto exchanges. So there's still some form of vague bigness in that area. But the Nigerian Securities and Exchange Commission has made the most move towards embracing cryptocurrencies in Nigeria in terms of regulation. They've come up with some form of a regulatory environment that allows cryptocurrency businesses to thrive and also to be recognized as a part of the economic as part of the economic activities in the country. But for that to be fully optimized and become maybe beneficial to the Nigerian economy, the CBN has to be on board. They have to, first of all, allow the banks to be part of the ecosystem, to provide services, to provide banking services, and maybe in some ways also, participate in the market. But the CBN hasn't done that. So at the moment, cryptocurrencies. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
All right. So at the moment, you still have some cryptocurrency exchanges that has been licensed to operate in Nigeria, but can't do much because of the fact that they can't transact with banks and they can't transact also with their consumers. But I think we have moved from where we were, say, in 2017, 2018, to where we are currently. In 2018, there was a total shutdown or a total ban by the Emefiele-led CBN, and it continued up until 2022, but there seemed to be some opening, of hands, there seemed to be some understanding from the government to say that we want to be, we want to understand what's happening in this market, but they are they're taking it gradually. I believe maybe in a very short time, we'll probably get to the point where the CBN finally opens up and says, okay, everybody can be part of the cryptocurrency value chain. But looking at that, looking at the impact on the consumer part, I think that cryptocurrencies have sort of created some form of alternate employment for a lot of people. I know some people who have become traders, crypto traders, as a result of cryptocurrencies and have made some money from that. And then also there are people who have become analysts, some people who have become teachers, who have done a lot of things, using cryptocurrency. So it's created some form of employment, but that needs to be formalized into the general economy so that the economy itself can benefit from the cryptocurrency activities going on in the country.
Yeah, I was just even going to ask that, what ways has it contributed to Nigeria's economic development and even some sectors that have benefited from it? Because I know that cryptocurrency is the new thing right now, especially with young people who have transitioned into tech and they've tried to, hone the space, use it to their own benefit. But for Nigeria at large, how can you say that this has contributed to our own economic development? And what sectors specifically can you see have benefited from this tech?
I think on a general level, cryptocurrency, or let's say the blockchain from which cryptocurrency.
Hello, Frank. Hello, Frank, can you hear me? I think we just lost Frank's audio. Anyways, we've been speaking about the impact of cryptocurrency on Nigeria's economy. And, Frank has just been trying to let us know how it has created jobs for several people. So a lot of people have transitioned into tech, into the whole cryptocurrency, Bitcoin and blockchain, all of that, and they've been able to use it for their own benefit. But one thing I was gonna, just ask him was, is this supposed to be a substitute for our banks? Because I know that cryptocurrency is a tool, especially for the unbanked, the people who need to do some trading. If you need to do international transactions, cryptocurrency helps with that. And one of the issues that the federal government has is, you know, fraud, money laundering, because you cannot really put a leash on this. And if it just goes haywire, then that's it. But one question I was going to ask Frank was, how do we ensure that there is a balance between, you know, having those transactions, but then there is still safety and there is no fraud involved, there's no corruption when it comes to cryptocurrency. But I think it's a good way, it's a good tech solution that a lot of people, a lot of fintechs, you know, are doing right now. Cryptocurrency is almost like the new best thing on the block. And I think the most beautiful thing is the fact that there is job creation for people, because in Nigeria, in fact, what we're discussing earlier on was just still talking about, you know, job opportunities and job cuts because of course, the new minimum wage that needs to be paid. But with cryptocurrency, I'm sure you can just learn it. You can decide to go to a school, just learn how to use the tool, and then you've created a job for yourself. I don't know if we'll have Frank back. Hello, Frank. Hello, Frank.
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Okay, fantastic.
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you now. You went off for a bit. Okay, so you were just telling us about the benefits, or rather how it has contributed to our economic development, and also sectors that probably have benefited from this tech solution.
Okay. Yes. So, so you have the banking sector. It's something that that we can look around how it can benefit them without really putting them out of relevance. Because I think the fear for the regulator is that if you don't have a hold on cryptocurrency, there's the tendency that everything becomes uncontrollable, you know, which is also the fears around money laundering, fraud, and all that things. We are aware that some terrorist organizations are beginning to prefer using cryptos to collect their ransom, you know, but that's not to say that that's the only place that ransoms are paid, you know. But ransoms have been paid in fiat, you know. So there are different ways it can benefit the economy. We also have in the agriculture sector, the blockchain can also help to decentralize agriculture. You talked about financial inclusion. At the moment, maybe not so much is being done in to financial inclusion. Why? Because if we're going to use cryptocurrency to provide financial inclusion, then we also have to build the infrastructure, the network infrastructure that will make that happen, because cryptocurrencies rely on power. That's number one. The second one is the internet. You can't do much without the internet. So where the internet is not functional or is has some level of quality, you will have issues making some transactions there. You know, so if we can break that down, it will be one of the best tools for us to bring a lot of people on board and make them financially included, you know, and part of the economic activities. So I think that's where the concern of the CBN is. How do we get the part of this market in such a way that it benefits the economy and it doesn't erode any revenue that's accrued to the government? There are no hard answers to that. There are no clear-cut answers to that. Even the US are still trying to understand how they will be a part of it, which is why they have not given a blanket statement to say cryptos can operate or do whatever they like. You know, so every government is trying to see how they can build some form of regulations around cryptocurrencies and look at how they can maximize the benefit. But if we're talking about job creation, it is one of the best tools for job creation. A lot of people can just on your phone, on your device, whatever you have, I know that you can create a job for yourself there. You can learn blockchain. You can do a lot of things on blockchain, you know, and then also the many tokens that have come out, you know. So there's a lot to benefit, but there's also a lot of caution that needs to be applied, and a lot of learning that needs to be had. Many people need to be educated. Even those who are trading, many of them trade just because they saw somebody who's making money, so they decided to go into it. They don't even know why exactly they're going into it. They need to know, so they need to study that. So there needs to be some education, constant education going on around cryptocurrencies, so that people don't just go there and then become victims of a fraud and cyber criminality.
So there are reports that cryptocurrency tries to disrupt traditional financial system and also probably take control over the monetary policy. How do you think the government can ensure that they still have control over this, especially if we're talking about, fraud, money laundering, and, crime in general? How can the government stay on top of this? Are there certain policies that they need to put in place that could just be the checks and balances for this, but then we still have this tech solution that helps us?
For every new technology that comes out, there's always that fear that it's going to disrupt something. But at the end of the day, we all start to understand, okay, this is how this one can exist alongside this other one. There will ultimately be that other part of that business that will go out of sync, or that will no longer be relevant. But in terms of disruption, it is too early for us to say the cryptocurrency market is going to disrupt the financial system or maybe remove the bankers from where they are. Think about what has happened with fintech. There was a time in 2017 and 2018 that everybody said, before you know it, that the fintechs will buy up all the banks. We are in 2024. No fintech has bought any bank. As far as I know, in Nigeria at least. In other countries, some fintechs are beginning to do that, but it is not that fintechs are going to take over the banks. The banks have their relevance. The fintechs are going to have their relevance. The cryptocurrency market will have its relevance. Then the banking sector will also have its relevance. What needs to happen is, how do we fuse cryptocurrencies to be part or to create more efficiency in the banking sector? How do we use the blockchain to make transactions a lot faster? How do we use the blockchain to make customer experiences a lot better than they are today? How do we use blockchain, to track data, consumer data in the banking sector, so that we can offer services and innovations that make their lives a lot better than it is? I think that's where the discussion should go to, and not just about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just one of the cryptocurrencies, So, but once we are fixated on how do we regulate these cryptocurrencies and all of that, then we lose the bigger picture, which is the blockchain that enables all of these things to happen. It was one of the problems that we had, or the mistake, like I like to call it, that the CBN did with trying to go and build itself a CBDC. That's a central bank digital coin, which is the e-naira. And all of us have seen how the e-naira performed. It was created out of fear, that something was that the cryptocurrency was going to overtake the banking sector. So the CBN thought, we'll create our own coin, and that coin will now override the Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, the Bitcoin is still here. The e-naira is no longer here. And if we make that mistake again to go and say we are going to do a CBDC without clearly thinking about how it's going to work alongside the cryptocurrency market, how it's going to work alongside the blockchain development that we're pursuing, it will end up like an e-naira. So that's where the thinking has to evolve to. It needs to look at the bigger picture. How do we create efficiencies in all our industries? How do we make people get better service from each bank that we currently have? And how do we also use it to attract investment into the Nigerian economy? That's where the clear thinking has to come from. And then putting parameters that says, you can do this, you can do that, this is the limit you can come, and this is how far you can go. So everybody knows this is where we are playing, and this is where our red line is. So we can't go beyond that. And everybody, it becomes a fair market for everyone to play in.
So I want to talk about the social and youth impact. Now, we know that the younger generation, the youths are the one that are really, really into tech. But I want to ask, what is the economic impact on them? And also, cryptocurrency is being used as a tool, especially when it comes for entrepreneurship and innovation. How do you think that the Nigerian government can work in tandem with everybody to harness this and drive our economy better?
Again, it boils down to changing the mindset of those in government. You need officials who know how to be intentional about policies, who know how to do some research, and who knows how to empathize to say, why are they doing this? Can we understand it? And can we find a way to either enhance it and also make their lives better? What we have today is largely rent seeking. So the government looks at the population of those who are doing cryptocurrencies and it start thinking about how do we tax them. It's also the same thinking that they have towards other activities that's happening in the economy. So they look at the telecom, how do we tax them? They look at maybe somebody who's doing something big. Once you're doing something that looks like money is coming out of there, they're thinking about how do we tax them, not how do we multiply it. If we multiply it, we will be able to have more taxes coming in from there. When you multiply something and then you formalize it, nobody is escaping. You get? So everybody is now in the net, but they are playing, they are doing it willingly because you have given them the tool, you have given them the enabling environment to operate. So they are happy to return the 5% or the 2% tax that you ask them to pay, or the 7.5% VAT that you want them to pay. So first of all is to understand what these young people are doing. You don't police them. Trying to extract punitive measures from what they're doing. Like police sees the young guy with a laptop and says, "Oh, you are doing crypto," and then crypto becomes a bad language.
Yeah.
There are times that there's a tendency that when you start calling something bad, people gravitate towards that bad thing because they want to. It's out of curiosity. Let's just even see what's bad inside this thing, and then they keep going into it. And they don't then go into the good part of that thing. They start doing the bad part of that thing because they probably find out that even the bad part is paying them faster than the good part of that thing. But first of all, what you need to understand is the crypto environment. Which part of it is beneficial to you? Then you enhance or boost that part that is beneficial to you. Once you give that part a lot more publicity, a lot more leverage, the other people who are doing the wrong part, who are on the wrong part, will feel like, we are not benefiting anything from this part. We need to come over to the good side, So, and with that understanding, you're able to even put in the appropriate punishment if somebody does the wrong thing in that particular segment of the industry that you're trying to regulate. So it's first of all, who are those who are managing or who are regulating this industry? Who are watching these young people? What are the learnings that they have taken from watching them, and how are they applying those learnings? If they are applying them right, then you will have a more thriving crypto environment. Yeah. South Africa, for instance, have had the crypto environment for a very long time. They have not moved to
Yeah, I hear you, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable contributions. I think that this is a good way to go. This is a step in the right direction. And, we just need to integrate this mainstream because obviously from all the things that you've said, all the things that you've highlighted, cryptocurrency is beneficial to our economic growth. So if we want to grow our economy, we definitely need to look at everything, turn every stone that could help us, and cryptocurrency is definitely one of those things. I'm looking forward to the future. I'm looking forward to the positive things that would happen in Nigeria with cryptocurrency and any other thing that might just be able to help take us from where we are now and start to have a very thriving economy. Anyways, we want to say thank you so much for coming. It was so lovely having you here to discuss this with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and always a pleasure to be on the show.
Always. All right, we're speaking with Frank Eleanya. He's a senior financial analyst at Tech Cabal, and we've just been discussing the impact of cryptocurrency in Nigeria's economy. This is where we have to wrap it up on the show today. Thank you so much for having a breakfast with me. My name is Rome Paulson. I'll see you again on Monday. Have an amazing weekend.
Nobody go ask if you don't chop. Nobody go send you free money. If you not get now, you sabi. Adulthood na scam.
Adulthood na Scam is a popular song depicting the travails of being an adult and the responsibility that comes with it. There is no time the enormity of the responsibility dawns more than after graduation. After graduation is the time to make use of and put into practice the knowledge gained by students. However, the current higher education system is still struggling to bridge the gap between school and the workplace for students. The needs of the workplace differ, and something as simple as writing a CV is not taught in the classroom. How to apply what you have learned in school in the workplace is usually a knowledge gap that most graduates struggle with after graduation. Studying a particular course and deeply understanding the career paths available, the jobs available, the way companies and organizations operate, how to get hired, getting the relevant experience needed to get hired, knowing how to sell your skills are all parts of the puzzles that needs to be figured out by the young graduate. Abiola Ogunleye is a final year student of the University of Lagos, and he shares that he expected being in the university to be much more immersive.
I was expecting to, be in a department where, aside theory that I would learn in class, of course I expected to learn theory, history and all of that, and how to go about things, but I expected university to be like how I saw it in the movies, where you'd have real life projects to undo, you do practicals, you do carry out. So for someone that was going to mass comm, I went into mass comm with the mindset of possibly being on radio or TV and also journalism. So with the mindset of, okay, being part of the press club, producing newspapers, covering stories in school, producing shows and hosting them in school.
Even in terms of as simple as terms, media terms, like we didn't learn media terms, like even courts, we don't know what courts means. You understand? We don't know what, there are some terms, I'm just talking about terminologies here, like the most basic thing. So when I'm on set for a movie shoot, or because I did some radio listening, there were some terms that I did not understand, and when you check the terms, like there's some even workshop, they make use of workshops. So sometimes I'm like, what's that? And like people are like, you don't know something as simple as your workshop or the studio or headshots. Terminologies, just terminologies.
With a constantly evolving workforce and without a corresponding update in the school curriculum, the young people who win are those who go out of their way to learn skills required to be employable in the marketplace.
For example, in my school, we have we have the newspaper, we have the radio and TV, but for most of it, you have to be the one that will take the extra effort to be intentionally involved in them. You can just decide to do your coursework away from all of this and just factor it. Except in a few cases, like with the newspaper, where it's actually a course and you have to take it, but it's not compulsory if you don't want to take it. So, and mostly for folks in the print, in the public relations and other departments, there really isn't much of a way for them to practice in school. For now, it's just the newspaper, the print segment, and the broadcast segment that is in school.
Tech Cabal reported in 2020 that 58.9% of HND graduates are unemployed, 49.55% of OND graduates are unemployed, and 39.
Hello and welcome. I'm Emmanuel Oluboboko and this is the news brief. President Bola Tinubu will not be participating in the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York this year. According to the statement from the President's Special Advisor, Bayo University, Tinubu has directed Vice President Kashim Shettima to lead Nigeria's delegation to the UNGA proceedings, which are scheduled to take place from September the 24th to September the 28th, 2024. The theme for this year's UNGA is leaving no one behind, acting together for the advancement of peace, sustainable development and human dignity for present and future generations. Also, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, says his ministry is collaborating closely with the United States government to promote and strengthen press freedom in Nigeria. Idris said this during an interview with reporters shortly after meeting with the United States Ambassador to Nigeria, Mr. Richard Mills, in his office. The minister emphasized the Tinubu administration's high priority on press freedom and assured of the government's commitment to further enhancing media freedom in the country. He also said they discussed how to forge a common front in the fight against misinformation and disinformation. In his remarks, Ambassador Mills said he met with the minister to discuss ways to strengthen the existing relationship between the U.S. government and the ministry, particularly regarding press freedom and journalist rights.
All of us enjoy what is called press freedom, which, by the way, is an important part of any viable democracy. He talked about misinformation, disinformation, fake news, and all that stuff, and we discussed about that. We all believe collectively that there's no way you can build a better society when you promote fake news and you don't take the issue of misinformation and disinformation seriously.
Is a real voice to ensure freedom of the press in this country. He cares about journalists' rights, and I wanted to talk more about how we could work together to strengthen freedom of the press here in Africa and around the world. And also how to fight disinformation, which is a problem many countries are facing, especially democracies. And the minister and I shared some thoughts and ideas on that.
The Ghana State Governor, Bayo University, has deserved the caretaker chairman of all 44 local government areas with immediate effect. Now reported on Thursday, as the dissolution comes a week after the State House of Assembly approved a 2-month extension to their tenure, which was initially set to expire on the 8th of September. The extension, according to our lawmakers, was intended to ensure continuity in local governance, as local government elections are scheduled to take place on the 26th of October. Yusuf has directed the caretaker chairman to hand leadership to their respective directors of personnel management. Also, the Court of Appeal Abuja has granted the request of the federal government and the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onogen, to settle out of court in an appeal challenging his removal as CJN. The decision of the court followed information that the two parties have intensified efforts to reach an amicable settlement of all issues and disputes. The former President Muhammadu Buhari had in 2019 removed Onogen as the CJN during the pendency of a charge against him at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. At Thursday's proceedings, lead counsel for the former CJN, Ogo Onoja, informed the court that the two parties are already having discussions on a peaceful resolution of the dispute. He subsequently appealed to the appellate court for a 1-month adjournment for final settlement of the matter. Counsel for the federal government, Tijani Gazeli, collaborated with the submission of Onoja and also requested that the matter be shifted forward for a possible amicable settlement. Now, the crisis within the People's Democratic Party has deepened as the Northeast Caucus of the party has endorsed the embattled acting national chairman, Ambassador Umar Damagun. Speaking on behalf of the PDP chapters in Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, Borno, and also Yobe State, Governor of Interior expressed the zone's approval of Damagun's leadership since he assumed office. Fenteri also highlighted the restraining order issued by the Federal Court in Abuja, which prohibits Damagun's removal from office. The court had ruled that Damagun would remain in his position and complete the tenure of the former national chairman, Iyorchia Ayu. Governor of Interior also noted that this court's decision aligns with the interests of the PDP, its members, and the national democratic process. Still on the news, Dr. Dati Baba Ahmed, the running mate of the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 election, says he and the LP candidate are not surprised by Nigeria's economic turmoil. Baba Ahmed explained that they had previously won citizens against the All Progressives Congress taking power in 2023. At the inaugural meeting of the LP Interim National Caretaker Committee in Abuja, Baba Ahmed, representing Peter Obi, expressed confidence in the Labour Party's ability to repeat and surpass its 2023 performance in the 2027 elections. He emphasized that the Labour Party had originally and also organically emerged, driven by the Nigerian people and the obedience movement, and also had defeated two existing parties in the courts. The former federal lawmaker clarified the leadership transition in the party, stating that Julius Abure was removed due to the expiration of his tenure, not by any governor. The chairman of the Labour Party National Caretaker Committee, Senator Nenade Usman, reassured party members of the committee's determination to rescue the party and provide a viable alternative platform for Nigerians. She appealed for sacrifices from party members and supporters.
Our fund were buoyed by the fact that what we warned Nigerians, the failure of APC, the dangers of APC is happening. They are failing more the Nigerian economy. They are destroying the security of Nigeria. Every day in the news, you report it. Our citizens are abducted, they are killed in hundreds in villages.
The Nigerian Union of Pensioners in the Southwest Zone has rejected the 70,000 naira new minimum wage for workers, saying it is no longer realistic going by the further increase in price upon price by the federal government. Addressing journalists, the public relations officer of the zone, Dr. Olusegun Abatan, noted that the current inflation had made a mess of the 70,000 naira minimum wage, hence the need for it reviewed to 250,000 naira. Speaking further, Abatan said the federal government was not sincere as it tricked the Labour leaders to accept the 70,000 naira.
When you are dining with the devil, your spoon must be very long. And when you are dining with politicians, your spoon must be longer than that of the spoon that you want to use to dine with the devil. So, the federal government took advantage of the naivety and inexperience of Comrade Ajairu and Osifu by tricking them into accepting 70,000 naira and that he will not increase fuel price. But no sooner they agreed to kowtow what he said about 70,000 naira, the federal government went ahead to increase fuel. So to that extent, the Southwest is rejecting the 70,000 naira minimum wage that Labour has negotiated, and advised that Labour should go back to the negotiating table and insist on the 250,000 naira they initially wanted. Because before you know it, the 2,000 naira that the federal government said it was going to increase the fuel price will eventually emerge. So Labour should go back. And in actual fact, how much is the value of that 70,000 naira? It's just about 60 liters of fuel. 70,000 naira is about 60 liters of fuel.
Now, ahead of its upcoming Day of Salvation program this Friday, organizers urge Nigerians to come together in prayer. To say prayers are currently being held across the country with a prayer walk which took place in Lagos. The group started a procession at the National Stadium and walked into Maryland and made specific prayers for Nigeria, its people and the world. Razak Saibu, a member of the planning committee for the Global Day of Salvation, elaborated on the essence and importance of this program.
From coming to you. Amen. Open your mouth and pray for yourself. Take it seriously. Pray seriously for yourself.
For just not Nigeria, but other nations and far and wide. Right now we have prayer walks going on in several states in Nigeria. We even have as far as Pakistan, we have things happening in Pakistan because why? We are having a program, Day of Salvation. It's a very important program. The Bible says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves, really humble themselves, and seek my face, and turn away from their wicked ways, I will heal their land. A lot has been happening in our country that is not being palatable to the common man. And then we are not looking for the high and mighty. We're not looking for the church. We are going into the nook and cranny. We are going into the suburbs. Let's come out. Let's come out to the streets. Whatever is happening to Nigeria is not a fiscal issue. It has to be spiritual. The problem is that we as humans always try to approach issues and problems with a fiscal mentality. But everything is spiritual. The spiritual controls the physical. And God has told us, if we pray, come out and pray and be humble enough to turn away from our wicked ways. He said, I, God, will hear them and heal the land. And that's what we are doing today.
The Rivers State Police Command has announced the dismantling of a fake job syndicate and the rescue of 16 victims in Uguruta, Ayekore Lokigama area. The State Commissioner of Police, Olatunji Disu, disclosed this at a press briefing at the command's headquarters in Port Harcourt. This explained that the syndicate was uncovered when police operatives responded to a distress call from concerned residents who suspected a hostage situation. The suspect had posed as company staff and potential employees to defraud unsuspecting job seekers.
Group of people who are involved in employment scam, free fraud, advanced free fraud, and employment scam. They send messages all over to people that they have jobs for them to do here in Rivers State. The job they employ to them or they advertise to them, they claim has to do with oil and gas. Everybody wants to work in the oil and gas section of employment. So they all rush down to Rivers State. When they get to Rivers State, these scammers tell them that they are there to sell a product called buildings and ship pendants. And they start training of these people who are looking for employment. To open registration, to be registered for these sales of these products, everybody has to pay the sum of 750,000 naira. And some have paid as much as 1.5 million naira to be registered to sell buildings and ship pendants. And that after 2 weeks, they will start getting their dividends in dollars.
The police boss also a five-man armed robbery gang allegedly responsible for car snatching and burglary in parts of Port Harcourt and Obiakpo local areas of the state, adding that they have been terrorizing residents for the state seeking to enjoy the comforts and thrills of nightlife in Port Harcourt.
I was invited to come for an interview to work with an oil and gas company. Along the line I came, and that was when they now said that I have to pay a sum of money, 850,000 naira, which as at that time I don't have money, so I told them the money I have with me is 750. They now asked me that I should pay. On reaching there, that was when I now found out it's not an oil and company, it's just a kind of training ground. They call it training ground. So I was there, you understand, they now said it is a business purpose. That what they told us from beginning is a strategy, you understand. That if they didn't do that one, there's no way I can come over.
Rivers State Police Command has prevailed over a five-man gang responsible for snatching and burglary in Ada George, Iwofe, and Ogbogoro area of Port Harcourt. Other locations of the operations are Egbelu, D-Line, GRA2, and Borokiri. The gang has been responsible for snatching at gunpoint over 10 cars in the last 3 months. And they have been terrorizing Rivers State residents seeking to enjoy the comfort and thrills of nightlife. The gang was led by one activist known as Chukwuela Imela, aka Boy Satan. He has been to prison over 4 times for various crimes, ranging from cultism, raping, and armed robbery. Together with his childhood friend and companion, Precious Adiele.
The Commissioner of Police urged residents to be vigilant and cooperate with the police by giving adequate information to read the state of crime and criminality. The Director General of the National Automotive Design and Development Council, Uli Awemimo Joseph, says the compressed natural gas is a cheaper form of energy. He stated this during a 5-day training program for auto technicians in Ado-Ekiti State. The training focused on the technicalities and the procedures for converting gasoline-powered vehicles to CNG. Over 35 participants from the 16 local government areas of Ekiti State attended the program, as the NADDC was also explained that CNG is a cleaner energy source and will create employment opportunities for citizens. Ekiti State Governor Bayo University, represented by the Commissioner for Infrastructure and Public Utilities, Professor Mobolaji Aluku, reiterated that the state government's commitment to the CNG initiative.
When you look at the cost of commercial transportation in Nigeria, the major element that influences the cost most is the cost of price of petrol, PMS or AGO. And even when we have you go to other manufacturing companies, every other company use either gen. When you are using generator, the major element of providing that light is the cost of AGO. So now, if you are using CNG, we can bring that cost down by 70 to 80%. And when that we can achieve that, we'll be able to transfer that to the masses who are now going to enjoy cheaper transport fare.
Every free conversion now will just be a demonstration of that. But the essence of the conversion is that whatever you spend in doing the conversion, you get back very quickly in terms of the operation.
And also other parts of Africa, humanitarian aid plane owned by the South African aviation company National Airways Corps has now been damaged during an attack in Mali's capital, Bamako. The plane, which was used by the World Food Programme to transport aid workers and provide emergency assistance in remote areas, came under terrorist attack while on the ground in Bamako. Now, fortunately, all crew and staff were unarmed and also have taken refuge in a remote safe house. The attack occurred as militants struck our military training camp and the airport in Bamako. Malian troops were able to subdue the militants following a gunfire that resulted in soldiers' casualty, and Al-Qaeda linked group has also claimed responsibility for the attack. South Africa's Hezbollah's barrage into northern Israel on Thursday marked the latest exchange in an escalating conflict with the Israeli military, fueling fears of a border war. Earlier this week, hundreds of electronic devices used by Hezbollah exploded in Lebanon, killing at least 37 people and wounding around 3,000 others. The device explosions appeared to be a combination of a covert Israeli operation targeting Hezbollah members over 2 days, as well as pages, and as walkie-talkies detonated, wounding and also disabling some fighters, as well as maiming civilians tied to the group's social programs and also killing at least 2 children. The attack's connection to recent warnings by Israeli leaders of the potential stepped-up military operation against Hezbollah remained unclear. And to business, the Federal Inland Revenue Service says it will introduce an electronic invoice to improve the tax system in Nigeria. Zakis Adedeji, Executive Chairman FIRS, spoke in Lagos during an engagement with the organized private sector and emerging tax matters. Adedeji was represented by Ote Olani, Acting Director of the Medium Taxpayers Department at the FIRS. He said the initiative, adheres to solution for managing invoices, is in line with the Tax Administration and Enforcement Act 2007.
We can develop a tax system that supports sustainable growth and equitable development. Our collective efforts will pave way for a more prosperous and resilient Nigeria. As we move forward, we encourage you to support these initiatives with constructive feedback.
And straight to move on to entertainment news. The late Egyptian businessman Mohammed Al-Fayed, whose son Dirty died in a car crash with Princess Diana, has been accused of rape and sexual assaults by multiple women. The allegations detailed in our documentary involve incidents that occurred at Ar's department store and other locations. The women claim that Al-Fayed's abuse was known within the company, and Ar's has since acknowledged its failure to intervene. Legal claims have been prepared against the department store, which has issued an apology for the actions of its former owner. And on to sports news. The Team Deltas emerged champions of the 8th National Youth Games for the second consecutive time. The state won 46 gold, 31 silver and 34 bronze, totaling 111 medals, and was declared winner at the closing ceremony held at the Stephen Keshi Stadium, Asaba, on Thursday. They were closely followed by Team Lagos with 26 gold, 20 silver and 19 bronze medals, while the third position went to Team Edo with 18 gold, 13 silver and 28 bronze medals. Recall that Delta hosted the 7th edition of the Games and topped the medal table with 51 gold, 34 silver and 11 bronze medals. The state has now won all editions of the National Youth Games from 2016 to date. Meanwhile, 35 states, including the FCT, won medals, including Ebonyi State, unlike last year when it was about 27 states, while Rivers is the only state that failed to participate. And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Plus TV Africa and Plus Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us on Limix, Limix.tv, and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Emmanuel Olubobokun. Many thanks for watching.
Welcome to Bayo University, Abuja, Nigeria, with a legacy of excellence and a vision for nurturing future leaders. Bayo University is in a league of its own. We're all about our people, processes, and technology.
Bayo is one of the highly rated universities in Nigeria in terms of product quality standards.
We don't just produce graduates, but groom people into employers of labor.
And it has made us understand that learning is all about three things. We learn, we unlearn, and we relearn.
Bayo University Hospital offers a range of specialized services equipped with the latest technology, manned by a team of trusted professionals. And now, our vision extends beyond our walls with the Baba Ahmed University in Kano following our lead. Join us at Bayo University and invest in your future today.
Bayo University is the institution where you will get the best value for money education in Nigeria.
Bayo University. Learn to live.
Sex education is just becoming more popular in Nigerian culture. But an aspect we often neglect is sexual health communication. How comfortably do people communicate their sexual health challenges with health workers when the need arises?
People have different personality types, but generally, people are usually very shy when it comes to talking about like their sexual health. They have complaints that have to do with reproductive, like that have to do with the genitals or something related to sex, you know. They're usually like, there's this sense of shame, there's this sense of embarrassment. I usually look at it this way. Number one, there are many people that did not come.
Can you remember the last time you were at the doctor's and you wanted to complain about a sexual health challenge? How comfortable were you? What tactic did you employ to explain your predicament to the doctor?
There are people that come, but when they come, they're not going to say their complaints because when they got to the hospital, they choke, in quotes. Like, they just feel like, no, I can't say this thing because they feel so embarrassed about it. And the people that don't come, what they do is they talk with a friend that they feel that, hey, this person is going to understand and is not going to judge me. And so the people that come and they choke, they'll just tell you another complaint. So that's not the reason why they came to the hospital. So they'll just tell you something else, like something that is not related to their, and to the main complaint that, you know, brought them to the hospital. And one thing I noticed is that while they are telling that complaint, they're actually assessing the doctor. Like, am I really going to say my main complaint? Like, they want to know how this person is. Is this person going to judge me? Is this person a free person? So they're looking at like your attitude at that time. Is the person angry? I mean, these are my own conclusions based on my experience. So I've seen patients that will come and they'll say something, they'll say that complaint, and then you ask them all the questions about that complaint, and when it gets to the end, they'll not say, hey, doctor, now we've ended or we've finished, we've gotten to the, not say, hey, doctor, one more thing. And then they'll go to, I have this. I've come to understand now that some people, is not, that thing is not one more thing. That is actually the thing that brought them to the hospital.
Many things go through the mind of a patient when they go to the hospital to complain about their sexual and reproductive health challenges. Shame and fear of judgment rank very high. According to a Washington Post article, we are taught to feel shame around our sexuality from a young age as our bodies develop and start to function in ways we're unfamiliar with, as we begin to realize our body's potential for pleasure. Religious and cultural leanings are responsible for this sense of shame.
The lady came, she sat down. What's your complaint? She had written it in a paper. She now passed it to me. Like, passed me the complaint. Okay, I looked at it. I'm like, I can see you.
He's my hero.
You are here. Tell me, what brought you to the hospital? She passed it. And I read it. I said, okay, I understand.
Condoms are available everywhere. The advertisement and sensitization to use condoms is abundant. But how much of the information and resources is committed to tackling the inherent shame around purchasing a condom? Even with a plethora of information, resources committed to educating people about sex and taking care of their bodies, many people are still uncomfortable discussing it, even when their health is at risk.
And it's worse for men. You know, females, even though it's difficult, they still come to the hospital. Men will not come unless the thing is now a big trouble under, and they're now like, okay, I cannot continue. Like, it's now maybe like a sore is in one part of the body and it's getting bigger, and you know, all the things their friends told them is not working.
Many times, people are shy or ashamed to walk into a pharmacy to buy condoms or morning after pills, or even make a complaint to a doctor about their sexual health concerns. This shame leads to people engaging in unprotected sex and unhealthy sexual practices. Another factor that keeps many from accessing healthcare is judgment from healthcare workers that may affect their experiences. Prioritizing your sexual health is something to be proud of, and a doctor or pharmacist is there to help you. Many patients won't go to the hospital to complain about their sexual health concerns because they're ashamed. It is the duty of healthcare professionals to make them comfortable enough. However, some healthcare professionals let their personal biases get in the way when discussing sexual health concerns with their patients. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, here are some of the ways you can make your patient comfortable to discuss their sexual health concerns with you as a healthcare worker. Assess your own comfort by discussing sex with various patient groups. Identify any biases that you may have if you're uncomfortable talking about sex and sexuality. Your patient will be too. Avoid making assumptions about your patient based on age, appearance, marital status, and any other factor. Use neutral and inclusive terms such as partner. Make your patient feel comfortable by establishing a rapport before asking sensitive questions. Ask other people to step into the waiting room while you talk to your patient. These people may include partners, relatives, or caregivers. They can be invited back after the examination. Let your patient know that you ask everyone these questions. Transition into asking sensitive questions. Pose your questions in a non-judgmental manner. Try not to react overtly, even if you feel uncomfortable or embarrassed. Pay attention to your body language and posture. Rephrase your questions or briefly explain why you're asking a question if a patient seems offended or reluctant to answer. Ensure that you and your patient share an understanding of the terms being used to avoid confusion. If you're not familiar with the term your patient used, ask for an explanation.
Now, every employee seeks an organization that promotes inclusivity. Now, job seekers actively look for companies that embrace an inclusive culture. By cultivating a more open and accepting workplace culture, your institution becomes a place where employees feel free, happy, fulfilled, and motivated in their work. Now, the workplace should be a welcoming environment that embraces diversity in ethnicity, gender, religion, race, and age. If you are a manager or a leader or business owner who wants to promote inclusivity but isn't sure how to get started, this is for you. Now, the key lies in your leadership and management approach. As a leader, you'll be a primary role model, so it is important to utilize strategies and methods that foster and cultivate inclusivity throughout your organization. Now, implementing effective diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI practices can enhance organizational performance, drive innovation, and contribute to a more equitable society. Welcome to Business Insight on Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonia. Now, the organizers of the Peak Performer Bootcamp have encouraged young individuals to embrace leadership and accountability. This appeal was made during the second edition of the Peak Performer Emerge 2024 event themed Driving an Inclusive Culture of Peak Performance, the Place of Taking Responsibility. The event featured sessions led by distinguished speakers from various sectors who shared insight on how young people can optimize their potential, draw inspiration from successful leaders, and uphold responsibility and dedication in pursuit of their goals. Details in this report. It is the 2024 edition of the International Youth Day. This gathering has been put together by the Peak Performer in collaboration with United States Diplomatic Mission in Nigeria, as well as American Corner in Ikeja. Tagged Emerge 2024, this yearly workshop is focused on boosting career and business growth for young Africans.
In this part of the world, once you can believe it, you can do it. Understand who you are, where you are, and your peculiarities.
The event aims to provide up-and-coming leaders and youths with the key skills and mindset necessary for success in their careers and industries. The workshop gathered young professionals from various backgrounds and included notable speakers who shared their personal journeys to motivate and uplift the attendees.
Yeah, as young leaders, to speak to ourselves and encourage ourselves in our process of becoming in a country that is currently experiencing a very hostile economic situation. So we are here today to just say to ourselves that if we believe, we can achieve whatever it is we believe, regardless of what the country or the circumstances around us also saying.
So for me, what has stood me out in a way, of course, we won't take that out of it, but the fact is that I had a vision of what I wanted to do with my career. I did not just want to be a comedian that would just tell just people will laugh. No. I had a vision, I had goals, I had targets. At so and so point in life, I want to be at this point. I want to be able to have risen to this point. So there was a vision that I had. And of course, your vision determines your actions. So what you have a vision on will determine the kind of places you go to, the kind of the kind of education you will give to yourself. So for me, I have a strong vision of what I want to achieve, where I want to get to, and that is what has kept the other guys that we know there.
The host, world-class performance strategist Dr. Abiola Salami, and others highlights the importance of fostering a positive mindset in the youth to nurture a generation of responsible and impactful leaders.
So it's important for young people to know that greatness doesn't happen suddenly. Greatness is built over time. And so for every young person out there who are doing their best, to survive, I want to challenge you that what you should be thinking of is not just survival, but thriving. Understanding that greatness is not a sudden incident.
By equipping young people with the right mindset, the event plays a pivotal role in nurturing the next generation of leaders, ensuring they are well prepared to make impactful contributions to their fields and communities. Oh, welcome back from that report. In Nigeria's diverse multicultural society, diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI have evolved beyond mere buzzwords, emerging as essential pillars for organizational success and societal progress. Nigeria's rich cultural tapestry offers invaluable lessons on embracing DEI's transformative potential. Now, my guest, Bright UK Okwenga, is a dynamic professional wearing multiple hats as a speaker, author, digital entrepreneur, psychologist, and coach. He coaches individuals and groups, consults for companies and organizations, writes for top-tier tabloids, and speaks regularly at conferences around the nation on subjects that impact human behavior, empower leaders, shape culture, and democratize prosperity. Now, renowned for his ability to ignite mental transformation using his groundbreaking hashtag 6 Sense framework, Bright is the principal consultant at 6 Sense Leadership Consulting, an innovative strategy, training, and consulting company that helps individuals and organizations lead the future by catalyzing their reinvention and exponential growth. He joins me now as we look more into this DEI and how we can incorporate inclusivity in organizational structures and, of course, leadership. Many thanks for joining me on Business Insight, Bright.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
It is very, 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 very apt what we are looking at because, for instance, Nigeria is a multicultural, multi-diverse setting, and issues of exclusion always comes to the forefront, especially leadership position, workplaces, and of course organizations generally. So let's just talk about DEI specifically and inclusivity and why it is necessary to, to be a thing really.
Oh yeah. So first and foremost, talking about DEI, which means diversity, equity, and inclusion. Diversity is the presence and, if I would say, appreciation of differences within an entity, whether it's a team, a group, a company, an organization, whatever it is, right? And these differences exist in terms of age, in terms of gender, in terms of religion, in terms of tribe and ethnicity. I mean, there could be different variations of that difference. And when we talk about equity, we're talking about giving people equal access, right? Treating them fairly, giving them equal opportunities, to fully participate, right? And then the last one we're looking at is inclusion. Inclusion means, creating a culture where everyone feels respected, they feel valued, they feel appreciated, they feel they belong, right? And then it's, of course, engages them to fully release themselves into whatever it is that they are supposed to be doing so they can have full participation. And that's basically it is. And, when we have diverse opinions, diverse perspectives, one of the major things it does is that it helps us to be able to look at the same thing from different places, from different angles. And it eventually helps us to cut through the complexities of today's challenging environment, whether in business, in politics, or in any other area as well.
Okay, fine. I still need to understand that. Still talking about understanding the DEI concept or initiative, as the case may be, specifically equity, because a school of thought believes that equity might be different from equality, because some people try to get both of them confused. Because, for instance, you can talk about we are equitable or we are fair, or in my organization we have 50% men and 50% women. But then some people might say that that is not equity, because you have 50% men, but then how much of the men are really part of management level, and how much is in different aspects. So how do we differentiate between equity and equality as it is?
So at the core of equity, which is what we would always want to focus on in this case, is your ability to provide specific needs or provide resources to meet specific needs, right? Such that each person has their needs met. Not just that we are treating everybody, giving everybody the same thing. No, it's according to what is needed. So equity is ensuring that everyone has their needs met.
So let's bring it down to the organizational culture and the workplace scenario. How does all of this play? How does it actually add to effectiveness and also help an organizational structure?
So generally, like I said earlier, when organizations have a diverse team, it helps to foster innovation. it helps to solve problems, because at the heart of innovation is creativity. At the heart of innovation and problem solving is creativity. And at the heart of creativity is the ability to see differently, right? If we are all seeing the same thing, we will have the same problem in terms of what you call a blind spot, right? There are things that we might not be able to see because of our wiring over time. So it's better when you have two different people who are approaching it from two different angles. The way a man sees usually is not the way a woman sees.
True.
The way an elder sees is not the way a young child sees.
True.
The way someone who is, not physically disabled, is different from the way which a disabled person sees. And we must be able to recognize that for every one of these persons we've mentioned, or every of these categories, there are many other people within that same category who have needs, right? Just like the same. So again, when we're able to see differently, it helps us to be able to, solve today's problems together and, create tomorrow's future together as well. So at the end of the day, what I'm saying basically is that the more diverse a team is, the more the competitive advantage that a team, a group, or an organization might have. Yes, and to put that in some credible with some credible statistics.
The evidences.
Right, evidences. Right, there's a statistic. There's a research that teams that are more diverse, right, that are diverse in nature would always have 80%, 87% higher productivity levels than teams that are not, because of the factor of innovation, right? There was another study conducted by the Boston Consulting Group, BCG, that shows that we have teams that, executive management teams, right, with gender diversity or diversity generally outperformed others, right, by 19% in terms of their productivity. So there are evidences backing the significance, all right, of diversity, equity, and inclusion within organizations.
Okay, let's talk about implementation really, because it's looking so very laudable, because of the evidence and the statistic that you have mentioned. And how do we implement it? For instance, are there practical steps that organizations can take? For instance, I am watching at home and you're talking about DEI, and I need to be very diverse and inclusive, of course, while also talking about equity. So what are the practical steps that I could, or an organization or leadership structure can do to infuse this DEI principle?
Okay, yeah. So when it comes to DEI, it's very practical. Whether in the home, in the office, in the boardroom, anywhere it is, it's practical. And it's a function of leadership, because culture is a core leadership function. And at the heart of culture is policy making, right? And for leaders, leaders not only make policies, but they also model those policies, right? So I give four practical, strategies for this. 4 A's, if I may call them. The first one is assessment. You need to assess where the gaps are, right? Ask questions. What kind of noise is emanating as a result of imbalances in diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? And how exactly, or what do we need to do to cover those gaps, right? What measurable outcomes can we set? What measurable goals can we set? The second one is awareness, right? So it's one thing for people to say they want to embrace DEI. It's another thing for them to have the requisite training, right, to understand what exactly it is.
So you need to be trained to understand.
They need to be trained to understand it. And the other side of it is that by training, they also get equipped with the skills, right, needed to implement that practically. The third side is the adoption. And that's why I talked about policy. You need to create the right policy that fosters inclusion. In fact, whenever I lead a team, whenever I'm privileged to lead a team, one of the ground rules I establish is that no one is permitted to silence someone who chooses to speak up. All right? And you're not even permitted to interrupt them, because everyone's idea counts, no matter how foolish it appears to one person, it counts, right? So people have to be encouraged to speak up that way. And so there must be policies, whether policies for recruitment, policies for promotion as well, right? Because when you're promoting, you want to ensure that your leadership at the end of the day is diverse and people have equal opportunities at promotion. The fourth side of it is accountability.
Accountability.
Yes, we have to set measurable goals in terms of our DEI initiative to track progress at the end of the day. Yeah.
So being accountable will also entail reviewing what you have done and then knowing how to.
You have to review progress as often as possible.
You mentioned leadership in passing, but let's talk about leadership and how what role it plays in driving and sustaining DEI in maybe organizations and even at the home front.
Oh yeah. So like I said, at least 3 things. Number one, leaders are models. You can't talk about wanting to implement a policy that you are not practicing yourself. You have to practice what you preach.
True.
You know, when you have meetings, you have to encourage people to speak up. When you have to make a decision, right, you don't just let your own idea win. You know, it was Steve Jobs that said, in weak organizations, it says politics win. And when you talk about politics, you're talking about underrepresented groups. I mean, there are certain underrepresented groups that are just, you know, silenced. They're just left out of the pool of ideas. As well. So in weak organizations, politics wins, Steve Jobs said. And he said, in strong organizations, the best idea wins, right? So in modeling DEI, the leader has to always ensure that everybody has an equal shot to speak up and get heard, and they can contribute to the pool of ideas, and the best idea win. The second aspect of it is the policy making, which I've already talked about: assessment, awareness, adoption, and of course accountability. And then the third aspect of it is advocacy. We need to be able to speak up as leaders. When we find that we are falling short, if one person is falling short of practicing DEI, we have to call them to order, right? So on one side of it also has to do with appreciating, catching people right to doing something right enough to appreciate them. On the other hand, it has to do with catching them doing something wrong enough to correct them. So
okay, but then are there ways leaders can actually model inclusive behaviors and create an environment you know, where every employee can actually have that fairness that we're talking about? Another thing again that comes to my mind is that in as much as you're trying to be balanced, be fair, be equitable and all that, is there a point where you're being too equitable that it might really affect the bottom line?
So again, this is not just about promoting anybody and everybody just because of their gender, just because of their age. I mean, there has to be some sense of meritocracy.
Okay.
Right? So we're not just like it has been said previously, we're not just bringing women to the table because they are women. They also have to be brought to the table because of the value that they have to offer at the table. The most important thing is that if the woman has the value to offer at the table, she should not be dropped simply because she is a woman.
Okay.
If a young person has something to offer at the table, they should not be dropped, they should not be disadvantaged because of their age. So at the end of the day, it's not so much about bringing people to the table, it's about bringing people who have value to the table and let them be given equal opportunity, all right, to be at the table based on the value that they have to contribute. If that is the case, right, if everyone has value to offer at the table, and they are coming from diverse backgrounds, they are coming with different skills, they are coming with different exposures, different experiences. Yes, they can see things as differently as possible, and that the difference, the disparity in their perspectives becomes an added strength when they are actually working towards the same agenda.
You know how it is when you have different people with different mindsets and from different cultural perspectives. Sometimes it's like a marriage of misfits per se. How do you go around tackling such issues like resistance? Because sometimes they will actually come to the front burner. And what are other challenges that you perceive could happen in terms of trying to implement this DEI?
All right, so implementing DEI is about appreciating our differences. Like I said, diversity is about the presence of differences, but not just about the presence of it, it's also about the appreciation of it. And because we are humans, we are also creatures of habits. So by the time we bring in DEI conversations to the table like this, there will be some level of resistance due to tradition and habits that have already been formed, just like when you're implementing any other culture shift, right? So people need to be groomed into it. They need to be brought up in terms of knowledge, right? And that's why I talked about training much earlier. You need to speak to them about it. They are suspicious of change because they don't understand it. They need to understand it. It is that education, right, enlightenment, that overcomes certain level of resistance that is born out of maybe ignorance, suspicion, and things like that. The other side of it is that we also need to be able to, measure the progress of our DEI initiatives. When we see that it is working for us, everybody chooses what works at the end of the day. So again, we have to be able to show how it is working within the context of our organization, our bottom line, our impact, our measurable outcomes.
These progresses can actually be measured.
Oh yes, they can.
Okay, but another question that's coming to my head now, we're talking about DEI, talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion specifically. Now, let's talk about people living with disability. That's been some challenge at some workplaces because some people who are living with disability, they feel they don't get as much chances as those who are supposedly abled, as it were. And there are talks of the work environment, the workflow, or even the infrastructure per se is not really fair to the extent that it makes me to do my job better. How do we handle all of that?
So the point is we need to recognize the potential in each and every person, which is really what leadership is about. Leadership is about recognizing potential and harnessing that potential for progress, right? We can't say that because a person is disabled in one area, then they are entirely disabled and cannot contribute. Are you guys what I'm saying? So we've had inventors who were disabled. We still have pastors who are disabled. We have professionals who are disabled, and they have contributed immensely to the progress of humans, as it were. So what I would say is this: we need to provide those who are disabled with the right tools to help actualize their potentials and get the most in terms of their contribution. It's not so much about whether they can contribute or not. It's a question of whether we are ready to tap into that potential or to give them the opportunities that they need to fulfill their potential or not.
Okay, so this is really very interesting because at the end of the day, like you said, everyone has something they can add to the bottom line, and so they need to be appreciated. They need to be given what is equitable for them to be able to reach those goals. But then it's still very interesting. So what are the impacts really of all of this? Because some people would say that does it really work? How does it really affect my employees? What can we really do? Is there any essence to it? What are the impacts of all of this on the employees?
You can think about it. For instance, a woman who is employed within an organization who takes in, delivers, and a company arranges for a daycare or a crèche or something so that she can focus more on her work while her child is well taken care of. Do you think she would appreciate that gesture?
Of course.
Oh, definitely yes. Because the company has factored the fact that this woman would need her child to be well taken care of. So again, that is one way of implementing DEI. Of course, I know an organization that had to, as a matter of DEI, right, driving DEI practices within the organization, create a crèche. Yes, they created a crèche, and it has been growing ever since for their staff. Right? So when people see that their needs are met within an organization, they see that the organization sees them, the leaders see them. They feel valued, they feel respected, they feel appreciated, they feel like they belong there. It boosts their morale. It boosts their motivation. Again, when people see that they have an equal shot on opportunities for progress, for advancement, that their own actions will determine their outcomes. Their own talents will determine their outcomes, their efforts will determine their outcomes. They put in all they've got. But by the time they think that no matter what I do, the fact that I am a woman, or the fact that I am young, or the fact that I'm from a particular tribe or a particular religion, I will not get what I want to get, regardless. They feel there's really no need to put in the effort. And so at the end of the day, organizational morale is low. But when we practice DEI, when we implement DEI and everybody feels welcome, everybody feels accepted, they feel they belong, it increases the organizational morale. Aside that, it also increases the retention rates. And of course, that prevents losses in terms of turnover, right? And then of course, it increases the bottom line. It also helps you to attract the right kind of talent, the top talent. Talent is universal. If they don't feel appreciated in a particular place because of other factors, they definitely move to the other places where they'll be appreciated. So at the end of the day, an organization can attract and retain top talent by practicing DEI strategies.
Okay, a final word right now as we round off. We're talking about DEI, we've talked about the workplace, we've talked about the home front. So let's talk about Nigeria generally, now leadership and all of that. How do we bring all of this home when we talk about all of the leadership crises that we've had in the country? So how do we begin to appreciate DEI so we can actually foster progress and the national growth? Very quickly.
So Nigeria is a diverse a country of diverse ethnicity, and this ought to be a strength for us. Unfortunately, over the years, it has become our curse, as it were, and that particularly because of the perspectives, and then particularly because of the political drives around it, the political interests. But the point is, if we can utilize our diversity, we will be better for it as a nation. That said, we'll need a whole lot of reorientation, a national reorientation, and we need to be able to see each other for for who we are and for what we represent, other than trying to put, one down whatsoever. No, we need to begin to embrace what each person brings to the table so that we can forge ahead as a united front.
All right, so also a very big thank you to you, Bright Ukwinga, for joining us and sharing this wonderful insights to Nigerians and, of course, people outside Nigeria, because indeed we need to show inclusivity and we need to be able to appreciate our diversity as a people. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Justin.
All right, that's the size of the show for today. My guest has been Bright Ukwinga. He is an author and transformation coach, and we've been looking at DEI and, of course, how you can bring it to leadership, the workplace, and, of course, the country generally. Let's keep it a date, same time next time. My name is Justin Academy. Many thanks for being there.
Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Sunday Shomari in for Jackson Mvunganyi. This week on the red carpet, we have a chat with Fika Yeshewas, a rising star in the Ethiopian music, with her angelic voice and uplifting message in her songs. A new film explores the fight for the survival of the forest in Cameroon. In Nairobi, a new restaurant is using robots to serve dinners. The annual Basketball Festival 2024 will be held from October 24th to 27th at the University of Ghana in Accra. This year's festival opens with sports, fashion, and an entertainment summit. Organizers of the annual Africa Basketball Festival, ABF, recently launched the festival to celebrate African basketball and fashion in the United States at an event in Laurel in the state of Maryland. One of the speakers at the launch was former NBA player and basketball executive Nana Papayao Mensah-Bonsu, who spoke to Red Carpet about the potential and future of basketball in Africa.
I'm Pop Mensah-Bonsu here at the Africa Basketball Festival, celebrating the game, celebrate Africa, fashion, culture, and loving what they do by using the game of basketball to reach the youth. And you see the transcending abilities of the sport and how it can influence the younger generation. So, always going to support with that said. And, somebody like myself who has an academy too that wants to use the game of basketball to help influence the younger people of Ghana is beautiful to see. So I'm just glad to be a part of it and looking forward to what the future holds.
Yeah. So Africa is the youngest continent in the world, has the youngest population. What kind of potential do you see the game of basketball having on the continent?
I see infinite and endless potential. There's a reason why the BAL is in Africa now. There's a reason why the NBA and FIBA invested in the game. There's a reason why there's academies there. There's a lot of outside investment coming into Ghana now, or into Africa, I should say, because they see the talent. They see the pool. Obviously, like you said, Africa is going to be the youngest and largest population in the world in the next 10 to 15 years. So with that said, we have to make sure we equip this younger generation with the necessary tools to be successful. And, using sports is definitely a way to expedite that process.
Fika Yeshewas, a rising star in the Ethiopian music scene, is captivating audiences with her angelic voice and uplifting message in her songs. Her latest album, Fika, meaning love in Amharic, delves into personal and social issues while also celebrating themes of love, self-discovery, and mutual respect. During a recent visit to VOA Studios, Yeshewas performed her music and sat down for an interview with our colleague, Hatam Seyum.
Salam. Fikr Balala. My name is Fikr Yeshewas. I am a singer, songwriter, and a designer. Hey. Salani lingarer, እውነት ማንነቴን ፍጹም ነኝ እላለሁ አላምንም ስህተቴን. I've always been singing ever since I was a kid. Just kind of grew up with me. I used to play a few instruments when I was a little kid and participate in the media programs and events while I was in elementary school. So I kept up with it up to a certain point, and then I'd stopped it for a little bit while I was doing my studies, and then it's a great tool to bring people together from all over the world. So I try to focus my music on peace and love and unity for the most part, and also just to talk about certain issues that are stigmatized and discriminated against by at least our culture and our society, and kind of bring that to light. I wanted to do something or release people in the society, especially not just in our country, but in the African culture. I think it's something not talked about enough. Behold,
believe we have a lot to share when it comes to music and entertainment and culture with the rest of the world. So my goal is really to bridge the gap between our culture and our music with the Western world.
In the forests of Cameroon, a new battle is being waged not just for the salvation of cultural heritage and traditional medicine. The new film, A Cry from the Forest, produced by Cameroonian actress and filmmaker Laura Onyama, explores the devastating effects of deforestation in West Africa. VOA's Kali Abdul brings us the story of art intersecting with environmental advocacy.
As deforestation continues to threaten biodiversity across Africa, creative voices are rising to bring attention to the issue.
Bamba.
In Cameroon, a new film titled A Cry from the Forest is doing just that. The movie, produced by Laura Onyama, highlights the struggle between traditional medicine and the encroaching modern world, all set against the backdrop of forest degradation.
Yeah, I'm a producer, actress, and I own a production company called Ola Productions. We just did our first movie, A Cry from the Forest, which was sponsored by WWF and AFD France. And this movie talks about forest conversion and the relationship between scientific medicine and traditional medicine from the perspective of the indigenous man.
For Onyama, this project was not without challenges. Being a first-time producer, she faced the hurdles of the film industry, but was buoyed by the support of her team and the local communities where they filmed. The story is deeply personal, reflecting the struggles of Cameroon's English-speaking minority in making their voices heard on both the national and international stages. The film's environmental message is echoed by experts worldwide who emphasize the critical state of our planet's biodiversity.
We are in the midst of a biodiversity crisis, a climate change crisis, and a pandemic crisis.
The issue of deforestation in Cameroon is not just a local problem, it is a global one. With forests being cut down at alarming rates, the loss of biodiversity is a significant concern. Experts argue that the future of our planet hangs in the balance.
Are we going to trash it? Are we going to destroy it? Or are we going to wake up and realize
that could be replicated across the region?
Okay, personally, my production company is focused on making films on nature, environment, and wildlife. So trust me, when you hear of Ola Productions, expect such beautiful stories, documentaries, fiction films, and all of that. So that's what you should expect from Ola Production.
As A Cry from the Forest continues to tour, gaining recognition, it serves as a powerful reminder of the urgent need to protect our planet. The film not only raises awareness, but also amplifies the voices of those most affected by environmental degradation, calling for global action to preserve the natural world for future generations.
A new restaurant in Kenya is generating business and buzz, not just because of the food, but because of the staff. Robots serving dishes is the main attraction of diners who flock to the Robot Cafe. Nyo Majanga reports from Nairobi, Kenya.
Welcome. It's lunchtime at the Robot Cafe in Nairobi's Kileleshwa suburb, and an unusual waitress is causing excitement.
Thank you, Nadia.
Nadia is one of 3 robot waitresses incorporated here to improve service delivery. This is a first in East Africa.
You assign them duties in the morning like normal waiters. You tell them which tables one particular robot is supposed to go and what is expected to do there. Because for instance, they do more than just survey. They sing happy birthday. For instance, let's say you do a reservation, and you have a birthday, it's going to deliver you your cake with the message and everything, and also sing happy birthday with you with the background of waitresses.
Use of robotic technology in the food service industry is not new. Restaurants with robot waiters have opened in the United States, China, and other places. But the concept is new to Africa. Since opening in Nairobi 2 months ago, Robot Cafe staffers say the reception has been good, with the robots being the attraction for customers like Brooke Abito, who is here today with his family for lunch.
I was happy to show my kids this, in Africa, in your own backyard. So yeah, it was very good. You can see that the technology needs a bit of development, but it's really nice how the robots take the food, they come and serve you. And when I come back next time, I want to see the robots more interactive, taking your orders, bringing your food. But it's a very good first step.
The introduction of robots in the sector brings fears of people being driven out of work by machines. However, industry experts like Edith Ojuang say there is no cause for alarm, as the technology will just serve as a tool to improve efficiency and quality of service delivery.
I really don't think it can face off the entire human labor, but it will be incorporated still, just like we have incorporated the other technology, and we've used it to improve our human labor and worked together.
Ojuang's advice is for Kenyan schools to incorporate technology training into their hospitality curriculum in readiness for the shift.
If we keep training people the traditional way, and by the time they're released in the industry, technology has already gone a notch higher. It becomes scary for them already, and it becomes difficult to be able to adopt.
Experts say the era of automated restaurants has finally begun in Africa, and diners should expect more integration of robots in their dining experiences.
Thanks for watching VOA's Red Carpet. I'm your host for today, Sunday Shomari. For more on your entertainment news, please check us out on www.voaafrica.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye, everyone. Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Sunday Shomari in for Jackson Mvunganyi. This week on Red Carpet, a 24-year-old Nigerian amputee overcomes obstacles to pursue his Paris 2024 Paralympic dream. We chat with the Mozambican band Yababuluku Boys to learn more about their mega hit featuring Burna Boy. Africa's gaming industry is estimated to surpass $1 billion in revenue this year. Plus, Fashion Award winner Ruth Chirwa is transforming the industry in Malawi and other developing countries. Let's begin. "24-year-old Ide Umaru Jabiru says he always dreamt of one day carving out his path to the Paris 2024 Paralympic Games, and his amputated left arm was not an obstacle." VOA Africa reporter Bureima Balima has the young athlete's story from Niamey, Niger, narrated by Omar Kaseko.
Ide Omaru Jabiros grew up mimicking other martial arts athletes, but never imagined practicing martial arts like most young boys his age. He still believed in his heart that one day he will carve out his own path to the Paralympic Games. Now he's looking forward to participating in this year's Paris 2024 Paralympic Games, taking place from August 28 to September 8 in Paris. Jabiro says he believed his grandfather, who kept telling him to not see his amputated left arm as an obstacle.
When I was little, I liked playing football. It's football that I like the most. When I competed for the first time outside, it was in Turkey. People thought I was there because of football. Now, it's Taekwondo that has taken over.
The 24-year-old athlete has already made history as the first Paralympic athlete from Niger to compete in para-taekwondo, which debuted as a Paralympic game in Tokyo 2020. He attributes his success to his grandfather, who was his first coach. He calls him Papa Cho, a reference to Niger's Olympic coach, Grandmaster Hyun Ko Cho. His father, Ide Omaro, says Jabiro's discipline is remarkable.
Jabiro was 8 years old when he had an accident and his hand was amputated. After completing his high school diploma, he joined the club of Mi Tijani, the brother of his maternal grandmother. From the moment he entered the discipline, we noticed that he is really motivated, and by the grace of God, he has reached this stage. I never thought he could reach this level. Since he left, we regularly receive his calls. Now we wish him good luck. We pray for him every day.
Jabiro says he couldn't contain his excitement the moment he realized he could take his dream to the world stage.
My objective is not to participate for the sake of participating. It is to participate to make our national anthem, the national anthem of Niger, resound.
Jabiro's participation in the Paris 2024 Paralympics Games will be closely followed by his fans. As a young Nigerian with a disability to engage in sports and compete internationally, Jabiro's achievement is a source of pride for his family and his country.
The Yaba Buluku boys from Mozambique captured international attention with their single Yaba Buluku, especially after a collaboration with Nigerian megastar Burna Boy turned the song into a global hit. The group spoke to Red Carpet's VOA's Jackson Mvunganyi about how the band came together and how Burna Boy involvement made the already chart-topping song into a massive global hit.
It took, I guess, three forces of Mozambican contemporary music to come together into one unit to be able to break that barrier that has been there for a long time. To cross over and you've done it. Were you surprised at the feedback internationally?
Was like a dream, bro. Yeah, it was like something that someone will wake up me, bro.
Yeah. This is not happening.
Yeah. We won't expect that because that the music will be a bang in Mozambique. We were expecting that, but
because you had the market already, you had the audience.
Yeah. Because almost everything we produce, we do is
it does well.
It does well.
Yeah.
In Mozambique, but not outside. You see, outside Mozambique, and then Nigeria.
We are the first Mozambican hitting Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah, in Mozambican history.
And that was before Burna Boy jumped on the song?
Yes, the original was #1 song. No way. That's why Burna Boy was
that's how he got interested.
Yes.
Like I have to jump on this.
So the first guy was
who reached out.
He reached out through his
representative.
Through his artist. So we was chatting that we are coming there. When David went back to Nigeria, he called me, bro, this guy is down here. Where you were, man? Where you were? He said, no, bro, we didn't come now, but we'll come soon. On that time, our manager Puerto Rico said, hey, bro, what do you think? What do you feel if Burna Boy want to jump on this song?
Wow.
These creative Kenyan young men and women have been finally able to showcase their work at the Alliance Française in Nairobi, hoping fans will like their African stories and buy their video games. Their video gaming and animation development was funded by the French government. Saj Nukwe is a film and media attaché at the French embassy in Kenya. He says the embassy has sponsored these creative artists.
That's impressive.
Climate change. Other short films covered topics like mental health, climate change. Other short films covered topics like mental health, family connections, romantic relationships, as well as existential issues.